Welcome, daring explorers, to the foggy streets and sunlit avenues of California, where the beauty of the coast hides dark secrets. Behind the neon signs, polished tables, and kitchens filled with the aroma of fresh food, lurk stories of tragedy, murder, and restless spirits. Tonight, we enter the 25 haunted restaurants in California with creepy histories, where waiters hear whispers from empty rooms, shadows move along the walls, and patrons leave feeling as though unseen eyes followed every step. These are not just eateries, they are haunted by the past, echoing with the laughter, cries, and anguish of those who never truly left. The Slaughterhouse in Los Angeles is a restaurant with a dark past that has left an indelible mark on its atmosphere. Originally built as an industrial slaughterhouse, the building retains its cold, cavernous layout, steel beams, and echoing hallways. Even after its conversion into a dining establishment, visitors and staff have reported an array of unexplained phenomena. Guests often speak of hearing phantom screams, the clang of knives, and the faint echo of footsteps in areas where no one is present. Many believe that the spirits of workers who suffered tragic accidents remain tied to the building, replaying fragments of their final moments for those who enter. One of the most commonly reported experiences is the sound of ghostly screams. Patrons seated near the older sections of the restaurant sometimes hear sudden, piercing cries, distinct and chilling, as though someone is calling for help. These screams are rarely sustained, appearing instead as brief bursts of sound that vanish as quickly as they emerge. Staff working late hours often describe hearing these screams echoing through the hallways or coming from the kitchen, where heavy machinery and workstations once dominated the space. The intensity of the noises has led some visitors to leave the restaurant, feeling an unshakable sense of dread. The clang of knives and metallic objects is another frequent phenomenon. Guests report hearing the unmistakable sound of metal striking metal, knives being dropped, or equipment being handled, despite the fact that all activity has ceased and the restaurant is empty. Many have described these sounds as originating from the kitchen or food prep areas, suggesting a lingering presence connected to the work once done there. Staff have shared stories of pots and utensils moving slightly on counters, doors creaking open or closed, and even the sensation of being watched while performing routine tasks. These occurrences create a chilling atmosphere, reminding visitors of the building's violent history. Ghostly figures are also a common sight. Some patrons claim to see shadowy silhouettes moving through hallways, kitchen doors, or empty dining areas. These apparitions are often fleeting, appearing at the edge of vision and disappearing when looked at directly. Witnesses have described figures resembling former workers, clad in old uniforms, moving with purpose as if continuing tasks long since finished. These apparitions are sometimes accompanied by cold drafts or a sudden sense of unease, giving the impression that the spirits are actively present rather than passive echoes. Cold spots and sudden drops in temperature are reported throughout the restaurant. Guests seated in certain areas may suddenly feel chills, even on warm evenings, or experience an inexplicable sense of being observed. Staff working after hours often describe areas of intense cold near workstations, stairwells, or old storage rooms, with no logical explanation from heating, ventilation, or air conditioning systems. These sudden temperature shifts are often paired with other paranormal activity, such as moving objects, whispered voices, or fleeting shadows, heightening the sense that the spirits of the past are still very much present. Whispers and murmurs also contribute to the haunting. Guests sometimes hear faint conversations, fragmented sentences, or names being called, originating from empty corners or the kitchen. Staff have reported hearing instructions being called, as though the previous workers were directing unseen employees. And some have experienced a subtle pressure or sensation of proximity accompanying the sounds. The whispers often appear in conjunction with other activity, like the clang of knives or the sudden movement of chairs, creating a multi-layered paranormal experience that unsettles even seasoned diners. The history of the slaughterhouse offers insight into these occurrences. In its original industrial days, accidents were not uncommon, and tragic deaths left an imprint on the building. The combination of physical trauma and emotional intensity seems to have created residual energy that now manifests to visitors and staff. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site report audio anomalies, sudden temperature drops, and visual recordings of shadowy figures in hallways and kitchens. Some suggest that these spirits are not malevolent but are trapped in a repetitive loop, replaying the moments of their final hours. Despite its haunted reputation, the slaughterhouse has become a destination for adventurous diners. Guests are drawn not only by the food, but also by the stories and the thrill of potentially witnessing paranormal activity. Many visitors recount hearing strange noises, seeing fleeting figures, or experiencing sudden chills, adding a tangible edge to their dining experience. Staff have learned to work alongside the unexplained, treating the phenomena as part of the building's character rather than a danger. King Umberto's, located in the heart of El Monte, is more than just a popular Italian eatery. It is a place steeped in stories of the unexplained. By day, the restaurant thrives on the aroma of fresh dough, simmering sauces, and the chatter of hungry patrons. But by night, when the doors close and the last customer leaves, a different presence is said to emerge. Whispers echo through empty hallways, cold drafts sweep unexpectedly through the dining rooms, and lights flicker for no apparent reason. Those who have spent enough time in King Umberto's after-hours report experiences that defy explanation, giving the restaurant a reputation that extends far beyond its culinary fame. The most commonly reported phenomenon at King Umberto's involves whispers. Patrons and staff alike describe hearing soft voices in empty rooms or the kitchen, often calling names or murmuring phrases that vanish as soon as they attempt to focus. Some say these whispers are warnings, fleeting messages from spirits tied to the space, while others interpret them as fragments of conversations from the past, lingering in the walls long after they were spoken. Employees who work late into the night have reported feeling the presence of someone nearby, as though unseen eyes are tracking their movements across the tiled floor or between tables. Even when alone, the sensation of being watched is so strong that some staff members hesitate to enter certain areas after closing. Cold drafts are another frequent occurrence. Patrons occasionally describe sudden drops in temperature around specific tables or along certain hallways, even when doors and windows are closed. Employees have reported chills so severe they can see their breath in the air, accompanied by an uneasy pressure, as if a hidden presence is physically moving through the space. Some say these drafts are tied to the tragic events linked to the restaurant's history, believed to be the lingering essence of past misfortune or loss. The cold is often accompanied by a heaviness in the air, a feeling that the restaurant itself is imbued with memories of events that occurred long before the current owners arrived. Lights flickering is another hallmark of King Umberto's haunted reputation. Fluorescent bulbs and hanging lanterns are known to flicker or dim unpredictably, sometimes synchronized with the whispers or cold spots reported throughout the restaurant. Patrons describe lights that turn off completely and then reignite moments later, with shadows moving along walls in impossible ways. Some witnesses report seeing faint shapes behind the counter, briefly illuminated when the lights pulse, only for the figures to vanish before they can be clearly identified. These sudden changes in illumination add to the sense of uncertainty, creating the impression that the restaurant itself is alive, or that unseen entities are choosing moments to reveal themselves. Local legend connects these experiences to the history of King Umberto's and the surrounding area. The restaurant has stood for decades, a hub of community and family life, but it has also been touched by tragedy. Stories circulate of premonitions experienced by former employees, patrons, and even neighbors, often manifesting as dreams or sudden intuitions that predicted accidents or misfortune. Some believe that the spirits tied to the building are drawn to these glimpses of the future, haunting those who are sensitive to such warnings. Over time, the combination of whispers, cold drafts, and flickering lights has led locals to regard King Umberto as not just as a place to eat, but as a conduit for unusual, sometimes unsettling energies. Several patrons have reported personal encounters with ghostly figures, These apparitions are often seen behind the counter after closing, moving silently among the pizza ovens and prep tables. Some claim to see a man in a chef's coat or a woman in a vintage dress, figures that appear and vanish without a trace. Witnesses describe an overwhelming sense of presence, a feeling that the spirit is aware of their observation, yet remains untouchable. Employees have shared accounts of seeing these figures pass through walls or glimpse them in reflections, only for the apparitions to disappear when approached. The figures are said to be tied to the restaurant itself, unable to leave, bound by a mixture of memories, energy, and unresolved events from the past. Paranormal investigators who have visited King Umberto's report similar phenomena. Thermal cameras capture unexplained cold spots and shapes moving in areas devoid of living occupants. Electronic devices, such as cameras, phones, and recording equipment, often malfunction or fail entirely during late-night investigations. Audio recordings have captured faint whispers and murmurs that cannot be attributed to staff or ambient noise. Some investigators even report the feeling of being watched, footsteps echoing in empty rooms, and subtle movements of objects without explanation. The convergence of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences lends credence to the idea that King Umberto's is a site of genuine paranormal activity. The combination of historical tragedy, unexplained premonitions, and persistent paranormal activity has made King Umberto's a point of fascination for both locals and curious travelers. Stories of ghostly figures behind the counter, whispers that follow patrons from table to table, and sudden chills create an atmosphere where the ordinary act of dining becomes intertwined with the extraordinary. Even those who do not believe in spirits cannot ignore the lingering sense of mystery that pervades the restaurant, an intangible energy that raises questions about what may linger beyond the visible world. Visitors and employees alike often report lasting impressions after experiencing the haunting. Many speak of a heightened awareness of the space, a feeling that certain moments carry significance beyond the mundane. Some have experienced dreams or visions linked to events at King Umberto's, while others simply remember the sensation of being watched or of footsteps following them long after they have left. The stories continue to draw attention, adding to the mystique of the restaurant and solidifying its reputation as a site where the past and present intersect, where spirits linger, and where ordinary life is punctuated by the extraordinary. The Pink Door, tucked away in a narrow alley of historic San Francisco, is a restaurant renowned not only for its food, but also for its chilling reputation. By day, the establishment hums with the energy of diners, servers, and chefs. Its Italian-inspired cuisine and cozy atmosphere, drawing patrons from across the city. Yet, as night falls, when the last table empties and the lights dim, an entirely different presence is said to awaken. Patrons and staff alike report cold spots that strike without warning, unexplained noises echoing through the halls, and shadows moving along walls with a life of their own. These unusual occurrences have earned the Pink Door a reputation as one of San Francisco's most haunted eateries. Cold spots are one of the most commonly reported phenomena. Visitors often describe sudden drops in temperature in specific corners or near certain tables, even when doors and windows remain closed. The chill is sometimes accompanied by a heavy feeling in the air, a sense that something unseen is present and observing. Employees working late shifts frequently report these cold drafts, feeling the icy presence brush past them or lingering near the kitchen and dining areas. Some diners, too, have noticed their hair standing on end or a shiver running down their spine, even in the warmth of a bustling restaurant. These cold spots seem to appear randomly, yet they have become a signature of the eerie atmosphere that envelops the building after dark. Unexplained noises are another hallmark of the Pink Door's supernatural reputation. Guests have reported hearing music drifting from empty rooms, soft piano notes, or faint laughter that echoes through spaces devoid of people. Some describe the sounds as fleeting, vanishing when approached, only to return moments later from another part of the building. Others hear the subtle clatter of footsteps along wooden floors, or the faint rustle of chairs moving, as if the restaurant is inhabited by invisible diners and servers. Staff members recount experiences where glasses or utensils seem to shift on their own, or doors creak and close without any visible cause, adding to the sense that the building is alive with unseen activity. Shadows moving along walls further intensify the haunted reputation. Many witnesses describe shapes that dart or sway as if performing for no audience. At times, the silhouettes appear human, elongated by flickering light, and seem to act independently of the living occupants. Some patrons report glimpsing figures standing silently in corners or near doorways, only to vanish when looked at directly. Others have seen shadows glide across the dining area, tracing movements reminiscent of forgotten dances or echoes of long-past gatherings. The combination of light and shadow transforms ordinary spaces into theaters for spectral performances, leaving a lasting impression on those who witness them. The history of the Pink Door contributes to its otherworldly aura. The building itself dates back decades, with a past that includes private gatherings, artistic performances, and even moments of tragedy. Stories persist of former residents or visitors who met untimely ends, leaving a residue of sorrow and energy behind. Local legends suggest that the spirits connected to the property are drawn to the vibrancy of the restaurant, choosing to linger and observe, occasionally interacting with the living in subtle ways. Some claim that these presences are not malicious, but rather fascinated, replaying fragments of past lives or performances as though the restaurant exists in multiple timelines simultaneously. Several diners have shared encounters with more direct manifestations. Some report feeling an unseen presence sit nearby during a quiet meal, accompanied by the faint warmth of a breath or the subtle shift of a chair. Others have experienced objects moving without contact, such as menus sliding across tables or doors swinging open on their own. In more startling instances, guests have described hearing whispers in their ears or faint laughter just out of view, sounds that vanish when they attempt to identify the source. These experiences, while fleeting, often leave a lingering impression, blending curiosity with unease and heightening the restaurant's mystique. Paranormal investigators who have explored the Pink Door have documented numerous unusual occurrences. Thermal imaging frequently reveals sudden cold spots and shadowy figures not associated with living persons. Motion sensors capture movement in empty rooms, and audio equipment has recorded faint piano music, whispers, and other sounds not attributable to natural sources. Many investigators note a sense of being observed, unexplained vibrations underfoot, or electronic interference with cameras and recording devices. These combined elements suggest a strong presence, one that may be bound to the structure itself and influenced by its past. The alley in which the Pink Door sits adds to the overall atmosphere of mystery. Narrow, dimly lit, and steeped in San Francisco history, the passageways around the restaurant amplify the perception of isolation, even in an urban setting. The surrounding architecture, combined with shadows cast by street lamps and fog rolling in from the bay, creates conditions where the line between reality and the supernatural feels tenuous. Visitors often describe the alley as a liminal space, where the ordinary rules of light, sound, and perception give way to an experience that is part history, part haunting. For those who experience the Pink Door's paranormal phenomena, the effects can be lasting. Some patrons leave with a heightened sense of awareness, feeling the presence of something beyond the ordinary in other areas of the city. Employees often recall the sounds, cold spots, or shadowy figures long after their shifts end, sometimes sharing stories with colleagues or friends. The combination of sensory experiences, sight, sound, temperature, and touch creates a multi-layered encounter that is difficult to dismiss, leaving an impression that blends fascination with an edge of fear. The Mystic Grill in Los Angeles is a dining establishment with a reputation that extends far beyond its food. By day, it attracts visitors with its inviting atmosphere, warm lighting, and bustling energy. By night, however, the restaurant takes on a different character, one that has drawn the attention of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Patrons and staff report fleeting figures appearing in mirrors, chairs moving without touch, and soft sobbing echoing from empty corners. Utensils clatter without cause, and objects occasionally shift in ways that defy explanation. The combination of these experiences has earned the Mystic Grill a reputation as a hotspot for paranormal activity, a place where the line between the ordinary and the supernatural seems blurred. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Mystic Grill involves mirrors. Visitors have described catching glimpses of figures in the reflective surfaces, sometimes just out of the corner of their eyes, and other times fully formed. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving no trace behind. Staff members have reported seeing employees who aren't on the schedule, or patrons in attire from decades past, reflected in mirrors only to discover the spaces behind them empty. Some believe these reflections are echoes of past events, captured by the restaurant itself and replayed sporadically, a haunting memory that refuses to fade. Chairs moving on their own is another frequent occurrence. Patrons occasionally find seats pushed back or slightly rotated, despite no one having occupied them. In more startling instances, chairs appear to shift while diners are seated, causing plates to wobble or utensils to clatter to the floor. Waitstaff have reported similar incidents in the kitchen and dining areas, describing chairs and stools moving as though guided by unseen hands. These events often coincide with other unusual activity, such as cold drafts or unexplained sounds, reinforcing the sense that the restaurant is alive with unseen energy. Soft sobbing from empty corners is perhaps one of the more unsettling experiences reported at the Mystic Grill. Diners have paused mid-conversation to hear faint crying or murmured words, often coming from darkened alcoves or behind partition walls. The sound can be fleeting, vanishing as soon as it is acknowledged, only to return elsewhere moments later. Some staff claim to feel a presence accompanying the sound, as though a lost soul is lingering just out of reach. Visitors have described a chill that accompanies the sobbing, a coldness that seems to seep into the bones, heightening the emotional impact of the experience. Utensils clattering without human touch adds another layer to the haunting. Knives, forks, and spoons have been reported to move on their own or fall from counters, sometimes creating a sudden clatter that startles diners. Staff recount the frustration of cleaning up after these occurrences, only to see the same utensils shift or fall again moments later. In some instances, dishes have been reported to slide across tables or counters, as if pushed by invisible hands. These incidents, while seemingly harmless, contribute to an overall atmosphere of unease that permeates the restaurant after hours. The history of the Mystic Grill is often cited as a possible explanation for its haunting. The building has existed for decades and was once home to a variety of businesses and residents. Some of these past occupants experienced tragedy or untimely death, leaving behind stories that continue to resonate in the present. Local legend suggests that the restaurant's location, layered atop years of memory and human emotion, has become a focal point for lingering spirits. These entities, some believe, are drawn to the energy of the space, choosing to manifest in subtle yet persistent ways, interacting with the living without direct harm. Many diners report a lasting impression after experiencing the haunting. Witnesses describe feeling watched or followed, a heightened sense of awareness, and a lingering emotional resonance that remains long after leaving the restaurant. Some return to the Mystic Grill repeatedly, drawn by curiosity and the thrill of encountering the unexplained, while others avoid the space entirely after a single unsettling visit. The stories of fleeting figures, sobbing corners, and moving objects have become a part of the restaurant's identity, blending its culinary appeal with a reputation for the mysterious. Paranormal investigators who have studied the Mystic Grill report consistent phenomena. Motion sensors record movement in areas devoid of living occupants. Audio equipment often captures faint sobbing, whispered words, or subtle clattering sounds. Corroborating witness accounts. Some investigators note an uneasy feeling in certain rooms, a sensation of being watched, or even mild disorientation, which they attribute to the presence of lingering energy or spirits bound to the location. Electronic devices occasionally malfunction during investigations, amplifying the sense that the environment itself is affected by forces beyond the ordinary. The architecture of the restaurant, with its mirrors, partitioned dining areas, and cozy corners, seems to enhance the supernatural experiences. Reflections, shadows, and spaces partially obscured from view create conditions ideal for sightings of fleeting figures. The movement of air through vents, doorways, and open windows may contribute to sudden drafts, yet these occur too frequently and in conjunction with other phenomena to be entirely explained by physics alone. The layering of history, architecture, and energy creates a space where the ordinary experience of dining becomes intertwined with the extraordinary, where every clatter, whisper, or shadow carries significance beyond its immediate cause. The Crescent City Spectre in Sacramento is a location where history and the unexplained intersect, giving the area a reputation that intrigues both locals and visitors. Once a bustling hub of social gatherings, the site has long been associated with events and patrons who, some say, never truly left. Today, the building stands as a reminder of a bygone era, its polished surfaces reflecting not only the light of the present but also glimpses of the past in ways that are difficult to explain. Patrons and passers-by report sudden drops in temperature, doors opening without human contact, and ghostly figures caught in mirrors and glass, creating an environment where the ordinary mingles with the supernatural. Visitors first notice a chill that seems to come from nowhere. The temperature can drop several degrees in an instant, often localized to hallways, corners, or near entrances. Staff and guests describe the sensation as a cold presence passing through them, a momentary but undeniable awareness of something unseen. Sometimes the chill is accompanied by a sense of weight, as if the air itself carries the memory of those who once occupied the space. These inexplicable cold spots have been reported consistently, creating an atmosphere that is both eerie and captivating, suggesting that the Crescent City Spectre is more than a building. It is a repository for residual energy. Doors moving on their own is another frequent occurrence. Patrons have witnessed doors swing open slowly, only to close just as mysteriously. Staff working late often report doors latching or unlatching without explanation, sometimes with enough force to startle anyone nearby. These movements seem to follow no discernible pattern, appearing at random times and in various parts of the building. Some theorists suggest that these door movements are tied to the lingering presence of past patrons, invisible guests who continue to navigate the space long after their physical lives ended. The idea of unseen activity leaves visitors both intrigued and uneasy, heightening the sense of mystery surrounding the location. Ghostly figures are perhaps the most compelling and unsettling phenomenon. Patrons and staff alike have reported seeing silhouettes or shapes in reflective surfaces, mirrors, glass windows, and polished wood furniture. These figures often appear fleetingly, sometimes just at the edge of perception, and vanish when looked at directly. Witnesses describe them as transparent or shadow-like, resembling past patrons or employees frozen in time. Some have reported catching glimpses of people in period attire, engaged in activities such as dining, conversing, or moving through rooms. The figures seem to exist in a parallel reality, visible only when certain conditions align, as though the Crescent City Spectre holds a window into its own history. Unexplained sounds also contribute to the haunted ambience. Footsteps echo along hallways with no one present, chairs scrape the floor, and faint murmurs carry through the air. Occasionally, laughter is heard, soft and distant, giving the impression that a gathering is taking place in a room left empty for decades. These auditory phenomena often occur alongside other manifestations, such as sudden temperature drops or visual apparitions, reinforcing the sense that the building is saturated with lingering energies. Guests report that the sounds can be disorienting, sometimes leading them to question their surroundings and whether what they are hearing is rooted in reality or memory. The history of the Crescent City Spectre helps explain its reputation. The building dates back to the city's formative years, once hosting lively social events, community meetings, and gatherings of prominent citizens. Over time, tragedies occurred, sudden deaths, accidents, and unexplained disappearances that left a lasting impression on the site. Local legend suggests that the spirits of patrons who died here remained tethered to the building, unwilling or unable to leave. This connection between past events and present phenomena gives the Crescent City specter a haunting quality that resonates with those sensitive to historical or spiritual energy. Patrons often report a lasting impression after experiencing the phenomena. Many speak of the sensation of being watched or followed, a subtle awareness that someone or something is present even when alone. Some visitors notice objects shifting slightly on tables or counters, or feel a cold touch brush against them, leaving them momentarily unsettled. Employees share stories of seeing figures in reflective surfaces during quiet hours or of hearing footsteps that vanish when investigated. These experiences combine to create a sense that the Crescent City specter is alive, a space where the past continually interacts with the present. Paranormal investigators have taken note of the Crescent City specter, documenting cold spots, unexplained movements, and visual apparitions. Thermal cameras often detect sudden, localized drops in temperature, while motion sensors record activity in areas devoid of occupants. Audio equipment sometimes captures whispers or distant laughter, lending credibility to eyewitness accounts. Investigators report a pervasive feeling of being observed, sometimes accompanied by sudden sensations of pressure or the subtle displacement of objects. The convergence of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena suggests a strong presence, one that seems tied to the history of the building and the spirits who remain. The architecture of the building also amplifies the haunting. Polished surfaces, reflective glass, and wooden furnishings provide unexpected canvases for the apparitions. Hallways and narrow passageways create an intimate space where sounds carry unusually well, making footsteps and whispers resonate more than expected. Lighting, both natural and artificial, casts long shadows that shift and morph, creating moments where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The combination of space, design, and historical weight makes the Crescent City specter a location uniquely conducive to paranormal experiences, drawing attention from curious locals, history enthusiasts, and ghost hunters alike. The Green Lantern in Santa Barbara is a place where history and the unexplained coexist, giving the old speakeasy a reputation that draws both curious diners and paranormal enthusiasts. Originally thriving during the Prohibition era, the establishment was once a haven for secret gatherings, whispered conversations, and clandestine deals. Today, it retains the echoes of that era, though the patrons are no longer living. Visitors and staff frequently report shadowy figures pacing the back rooms, chairs moving as though invisible diners have arrived, and cold touches felt by those alone. The Green Lantern has become a space where the past lingers, interacting with the present in subtle yet unsettling ways. Many who enter the Green Lantern first notice a sudden chill. Temperatures can drop inexplicably, sometimes in specific corners or hallways, creating the impression that a presence is nearby. Staff members have described standing near a bar or table and feeling an icy brush across their skin, as if an unseen hand has passed by. Patrons report similar experiences, often describing it as a fleeting but undeniable sensation that leaves them momentarily uneasy. These cold spots are sometimes accompanied by a sense of weight in the air, an atmosphere thick with unseen energy that hints at the spirits of past visitors who refuse to leave. Shadowy figures are the most commonly reported phenomenon at the Green Lantern. Diners and staff alike describe glimpsing silhouettes in back rooms or hallways, often moving just out of clear sight. The figures sometimes appear to pace slowly, as if retracing routines from decades past, only to vanish when approached. Some witnesses have reported seeing people in period attire, flapper dresses, fedoras, and suits, suggesting that the spirits may be remnants of the speakeasy's original patrons. These apparitions often appear in mirrors or reflections, leading to startling moments when guests realize no one is actually present. Chairs and other furniture moving without explanation further contribute to the eerie ambience. Visitors have found chairs pulled out or shifted from their original positions despite no one occupying them. Waitstaff have observed tables wobble, Utensils slide slightly, or bar stools turn, as if an invisible presence had sat there. These occurrences often happen in conjunction with other paranormal activity, such as sudden cold drafts or the appearance of shadowy figures, reinforcing the sense that the Green Lantern is inhabited by more than the living. Some visitors report being brushed by unseen hands or feeling light touches on their shoulders or arms. The sensations are usually brief but distinct, and they often occur in quieter areas of the speakeasy when the room is empty or nearly so. The feeling of contact can be startling, leaving diners or staff with a sense of heightened awareness and sometimes unease. These tactile experiences are often paired with visual or auditory phenomena, creating a layered haunting that engages multiple senses at once. The Green Lantern is also known for subtle sounds that hint at its spectral inhabitants. Patrons have heard soft footsteps in the back rooms, the scraping of chairs across floors, or the faint murmur of conversations from empty areas. Occasionally, the clink of glass or the rustle of fabric is heard when no one is present, suggesting that the spirits are reenacting routines from the speakeasy's heyday. Some staff claim to hear laughter or hushed voices that seem to drift along the walls, creating the impression that a hidden gathering is still taking place in the shadows. The history of the Green Lantern is deeply entwined with its reputation. During its operation as a speakeasy, it was a site of both excitement and secrecy, a place where fortunes could change with the draw of a hand, and alliances were formed in whispered deals. Tragedy and loss were part of its story as well, with accounts of accidents, sudden deaths, and violent disputes. Local legend suggests that the spirits of patrons who died or disappeared here have lingered, unwilling to leave the environment that was once central to their lives. The energy of the space, layered with decades of human emotion and events, seems to have created a persistent, interactive haunting. Visitors often leave the Green Lantern with a sense of having brushed against something beyond the ordinary. Many describe a lingering awareness of being watched, the subtle feeling of movement behind them, or the faint echo of voices and footsteps. Some return repeatedly, drawn by curiosity and the thrill of encountering the unexplained, while others avoid the space entirely after a single experience. The stories of moving chairs, shadowy figures, and cold touches have become part of the Green Lantern's identity, blending its historical allure with a supernatural presence. Paranormal investigators have taken interest in the Green Lantern, documenting the reported phenomena with equipment and careful observation. Thermal cameras often pick up sudden cold spots in areas that appear otherwise empty. Motion sensors sometimes detect movement without an obvious source, and audio recordings occasionally capture faint murmurs, laughter, or clattering sounds. Investigators also note a feeling of being observed in certain rooms, a sense of tension or pressure that suggests the presence of lingering spirits. The consistency of these experiences across multiple witnesses and investigators reinforces the idea that the Green Lantern is a site of ongoing paranormal activity. The architecture and layout of the Green Lantern seem to enhance its haunting. Narrow hallways, partitioned rooms, and reflective surfaces create spaces where apparitions can appear and vanish unexpectedly. The combination of history, design, and residual energy makes the speakeasy a location where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist. Lighting, shadows, and the movement of air contribute to fleeting phenomena, making each visit a unique experience where diners and staff may witness glimpses of the past replaying itself. The Dripping Faucet in San Diego is a restaurant that has earned a reputation for unusual and unexplained phenomena. Though it operates like any other dining establishment, its patrons and staff report experiences that defy ordinary explanation. The most prominent feature is the persistent sound of dripping water, heard even when every faucet is turned off. Guests often mention that the sound seems to come from nowhere, echoing through hallways, kitchens, and dining areas, creating a sense of unease. The dripping is irregular, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, and always unexpected, as if marking time in an unseen, spectral rhythm. Visitors frequently describe a sensation of being watched. Eyes seem to follow them from empty tables, corners, and even from behind walls. Staff members report similar feelings, particularly in quieter moments, such as early mornings before opening or late evenings after closing. Some diners have shared accounts of glancing up from their meals only to see the vague outline of a figure standing near the back of the room, disappearing instantly when attention is focused directly on it. These experiences are often accompanied by the subtle creak of floorboards or the rustling of unseen movement, further suggesting the presence of lingering spirits. Whispers are another common phenomenon. Guests and staff alike have reported hearing soft, unintelligible murmurs that seem to drift along the edges of the dining area. Sometimes these whispers resemble fragments of conversation, sometimes just a soft, sighing sound, but always create a sense of otherworldly presence. Patrons, sitting alone, have occasionally heard their names being called in a hushed voice, and in some instances, they report the whispers prompting unease or anxiety, as though an unseen observer is both near and distant simultaneously. The kitchen is another hotspot for paranormal activity. Staff have reported fleeting figures moving quickly along counters or near storage areas, visible only from the corner of the eye. Sometimes, utensils, plates, and glasses are observed to shift slightly without human contact, as though the invisible diners are attempting to carry on their own meal preparation. Some have even described hearing the faint clatter of pots and pans when the kitchen is otherwise empty, suggesting that the spirits are tied to the restaurant's work, lingering in the spaces where life and labor once thrived. The history of the dripping faucet may help explain its strange activity. Built decades ago, the building was originally a family-owned restaurant with a strong reputation for community gatherings and celebrations. Over the years, various incidents of illness, accidents, and sudden deaths occurred on the premises, including the untimely passing of a chef and a few patrons. Local legends suggest that the lingering spirits are tied to these events, their presence left imprinted on the space through unresolved business or emotional energy. This historical weight may account for the persistent sense of being observed, the auditory phenomena, and the ghostly appearances reported by diners and staff. Some guests recount tangible interactions with the paranormal. Cold drafts often accompany the unexplained dripping, brushing past diners' arms or legs, as if an unseen hand were moving through the room. Others report chairs sliding slightly across the floor, glasses tilting, or napkins fluttering without cause. These subtle interactions rarely frighten, but they create an atmosphere where the ordinary sense of reality is gently questioned. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile experiences forms a complex web of encounters that both fascinates and unsettles those who visit the dripping faucet. The restaurant's architecture amplifies these experiences. Narrow hallways, open kitchen spaces, and reflective surfaces create conditions in which shadows and sounds carry unusually well. Light interacts with the room's surfaces in ways that can cast fleeting forms across walls, producing moments where patrons think they see movement or figures that vanish when approached. Additionally, the acoustics of the space magnify small sounds, the creak of a floorboard, the drip of water, or the scrape of a chair, making them more pronounced and adding to the overall impression of an unseen presence. Paranormal investigators have taken note of the dripping faucet, documenting unusual temperature drops, unexplained sounds, and visual anomalies. Thermal imaging cameras often detect sudden cold spots, especially near the back rooms and kitchens. Motion sensors occasionally register activity when no one is present, and audio equipment has picked up whispers or faint, unexplained sounds. Investigators also report a persistent feeling of being observed, and some claim to have captured fleeting images of shadowy forms moving through the dining area. These findings lend credibility to the reports from guests and staff, suggesting that the hauntings are not purely psychological but have a measurable presence. Despite perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the dripping faucet continues to thrive as a dining destination. Guests are drawn not only by the menu but also by the allure of its paranormal intrigue. Staff navigate the space with a mixture of routine familiarity and awareness, acknowledging the unexplained while maintaining daily operations. Many diners share their own stories of cold drafts, shadowy figures, and the persistent sound of dripping water, adding to the building's collective legend. For those who linger after hours, the experience is even more pronounced. Whispers become clearer. Shadows seem to move with intention, and the sound of dripping water resonates as if counting down unseen moments. The Haunted Cantina in Los Angeles is a place where history and the unexplained collide, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who enters. Known for its violent past, the cantina carries an energy that is both magnetic and unsettling. Patrons and staff alike report experiences that defy rational explanation, from objects moving on their own to flickering lights, shadowy figures, and ghostly music that seems to emanate from nowhere. The building itself, with its worn wooden floors, creaking beams, and dimly lit corners, creates an atmosphere perfectly suited for encounters with the unexplained. One of the most common reports from visitors is the movement of objects without human contact. Chairs have been observed sliding slightly across the floor, glasses tipping and returning to their original positions, and doors opening or closing with no one nearby. Some staff members have found bar stools slightly rotated from where they left them, or utensils scattered on counters when no one was working in the kitchen. Patrons often notice these changes while eating or walking through the cantina, adding to a sense that unseen presences are actively inhabiting the space. Shadows are another frequently reported phenomenon. Guests have described fleeting shapes in the corners of their eyes, figures that appear near doorways, and dark forms that seem to move just out of reach. These shadowy entities are usually silent and elusive, disappearing whenever one attempts to confront them directly. Some witnesses have claimed to see human-like figures in period clothing, as though the spirits of the cantina, as past patrons and employees, are replaying fragments of their lives. The shadows often move in tandem with other strange occurrences, such as a flickering light or a sudden cold draft, reinforcing the sense of a haunted environment. Flickering lights are common in both the dining and backroom areas. Lamps and chandeliers appear to glow and dim without electrical cause, sometimes casting eerie shadows on walls or ceilings. In some cases, the lights flicker in patterns that seem almost deliberate, as if attempting to communicate or draw attention to certain parts of the room. Patrons often describe these moments as simultaneously fascinating and unsettling, leaving them unsure whether what they see is a trick of the eyes or a genuine supernatural presence. Music is perhaps the most haunting aspect of the cantina. Several visitors have reported hearing the soft, melancholic notes of a piano playing in empty rooms, accompanied by faint whispers and murmurs. Staff often dismiss these sounds at first, attributing them to old pipes or passing traffic. But the consistency and specificity of the music leave little room for conventional explanation. Patrons have described melodies that resemble pieces from decades past, played with an intimacy that suggests a lingering emotional connection. Some claim that the piano music is linked to the cantina's violent history, an echo of moments of joy or tragedy that occurred long ago. The violent history of the cantina seems to anchor many of its hauntings. Built during a time when the area was rough and lawless, the cantina was the site of frequent fights, robberies, and occasional deaths. Legends tell of disputes over debts, altercations between rival patrons, and sudden tragedies that left permanent marks on the building's energy. These past events are said to have left behind restless spirits, bound to the cantina by unfinished business or unresolved anger. Visitors often sense a tension in the air, a subtle pressure that suggests the weight of these long-ago events is still present. Cold spots are also a common experience. Patrons and staff frequently report sudden drops in temperature, especially near corners, stairwells, and secluded areas of the building. The chills often coincide with the appearance of shadows or the sound of unseen footsteps. Many describe the feeling as if someone or something is standing close by, observing them, yet there is no visible presence. These cold drafts create an unmistakable sensation of the supernatural, leaving diners on edge even while they try to enjoy their meals. Whispers and faint voices contribute to the cantina's eerie reputation. Guests have reported hearing snippets of conversation in empty rooms, sometimes in languages no longer spoken locally or in tones that evoke long-past eras. Staff occasionally hear murmurs while preparing food or cleaning up, voices that seem to come from walls or ceilings rather than any human source. These whispers are usually subtle, often perceived only in the corner of one's hearing, but they leave a lasting impression that something beyond the ordinary is present. Paranormal investigators have taken an interest in the haunted cantina, documenting the activity using audio, thermal, and motion sensing equipment. Thermal cameras often detect sudden cold spots and temperature fluctuations, while motion sensors sometimes register movement where no one is physically present. Audio recordings have captured faint music, whispers, and other unexplainable sounds that align with reports from guests. Investigators also note the presence of shadowy figures, sometimes captured briefly on camera or described in corroborated witness accounts. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences makes the cantina a compelling sight for both ghost enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the cantina continues to operate as a restaurant and social hub. Patrons are drawn not only by the food and ambience, but also by the allure of experiencing something extraordinary. Staff members often acknowledge the unusual activity while carrying on with daily operations, maintaining a delicate balance between normalcy and the supernatural. Many diners leave with stories of cold drafts, shadowy figures, or faint piano music, adding to the growing collection of accounts that cement the cantina's reputation as one of Los Angeles' most haunted locations. The Old Mission Cafe in Santa Clara is a quaint establishment with a long history, but beneath its rustic charm lies a reputation for unusual and unexplained phenomena. Situated near a historic mission, the cafe has been a gathering place for locals and travelers for decades. Yet many who visit report experiences that go far beyond the ordinary. Guests frequently describe cold drafts that seem to move against the natural flow of air, whispers that call out names or murmur indecipherable phrases, and chairs or small objects shifting across the floor without any visible cause. These occurrences have earned the cafe a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the region. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the sensation of sudden coldness. Patrons often mention feeling a chill that runs down their spine or brushes against them unexpectedly, even on warm days. These cold spots tend to concentrate near corners, empty tables, and doorways, sometimes lingering for moments and other times dissipating almost instantly. Staff members also report experiencing these drops in temperature, often accompanied by an eerie sensation of being watched. The cold air seems to have a presence of its own, following diners through the cafe or gathering near certain areas as if marking them for attention. Whispers are another hallmark of the Old Mission Cafe's haunted reputation. Guests have described hearing their names called softly, as if from just beyond their line of sight, and some have reported murmurs that sound like fragments of conversations from another time. These sounds are fleeting and often vanish when listeners attempt to locate their source, adding to the sense of unease. In some cases, the whispers seem to interact with the present environment, responding to movement or conversation, which suggests that the spirits lingering in the cafe may be aware of those who enter the space. Unexplained movement of objects is also frequently reported. Chairs at empty tables are sometimes observed to shift slightly, as if an unseen diner has adjusted them, and smaller items like utensils, menus, or salt shakers have been found displaced after no one has touched them. Patrons often notice these occurrences while eating, giving the impression that the cafe is alive with invisible guests. Even staff members have reported finding equipment or kitchen tools in different positions than where they left them, reinforcing the belief that unseen forces are active throughout the building. The history of the cafe may offer clues to its paranormal activity. Built near a mission that dates back centuries, the location has long been a crossroads for travelers, locals, and missionaries alike. Over the years, numerous deaths, accidents, and unexpected tragedies occurred in and around the property. Local legend holds that some of the spirits who now haunt the cafe are tied to these events. lingering because of unfinished business or unresolved emotions. The cafe's proximity to the mission also suggests a connection to earlier residents and visitors, whose presence may have been imprinted on the building itself. The architectural features of the old mission cafe amplify these experiences. Narrow hallways, high ceilings, and wooden floors create an environment where sound carries in unusual ways, making whispers, footsteps, and other noises more pronounced. Dim lighting and reflective surfaces sometimes produce fleeting shadows or the appearance of figures moving in corners, which disappear when directly observed. Many patrons report feeling a subtle pressure or tension in the air, particularly near certain tables or areas of the dining room, as if invisible entities are observing or interacting with them from afar. Staff and patrons alike have noted that the hauntings often increase during quiet hours. Early mornings before opening and late nights after closing are particularly active times, with reports of whispering voices, moving chairs, and sudden cold drafts occurring more frequently. Some diners have shared stories of sitting alone late in the evening, feeling a presence hovering nearby, only to glance up and see nothing at all. Even when the cafe is full of people, these spectral interactions persist, suggesting that the spirits are not deterred by the living but exist alongside them. Many who visit the old mission cafe describe tangible interactions with the supernatural. Patrons have felt brushes against their arms or shoulders, as though someone unseen walked past them. Others report the sensation of being followed through the cafe, hearing footsteps echo behind them when no one is present. Some have seen shadowy figures gliding across the room, sometimes near windows or doorways, vanishing before they can be fully observed. These encounters often leave visitors with a lingering unease, even after leaving the building. Paranormal investigators have also explored the cafe, documenting cold spots, auditory anomalies, and fleeting visual phenomena. Thermal cameras frequently pick up sudden drops in temperature, while motion sensors sometimes detect movement in empty areas. Audio equipment has captured whispers, faint voices, and other sounds that do not correspond with any known source. Investigators often report a feeling of being observed, corroborating the experiences shared by guests and staff. Some claim to have captured images of shadowy forms moving through the dining areas, further supporting the cafe's reputation as a hotspot of paranormal activity. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the old mission cafe continues to operate as a popular destination. Patrons are drawn not only by its menu and atmosphere, but also by the allure of experiencing the unexplained. Staff navigate the space with a mix of familiarity and caution, acknowledging the unusual activity while maintaining normal operations. Many diners leave with their own stories of cold drafts, shifting chairs, whispers, or glimpses of shadowy figures, adding to the collective legend of the cafe. The Phantom Diner in Oakland is a location steeped in both history and mystery. Though it continues to welcome guests, the diner carries a reputation that sets it apart from any ordinary eatery. Patrons and staff alike have reported encounters with unexplained phenomena that defy simple explanation, from ghostly figures lingering in corners to silverware moving seemingly on its own. The diner is a place where the past and the present coexist in a hauntingly tangible way. Local legends suggest that a tragic fire decades ago claimed multiple lives within the diner's walls, leaving spirits bound to the building, unable to leave, and replaying fragments of their final moments. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves the appearance of ghostly patrons. Guests often notice shadows of people seated at tables that appear empty, their outlines barely visible, yet distinctly human in form. Some have seen figures dressed in clothing styles from decades past, sitting silently or gesturing as if involved in conversation. These apparitions sometimes fade when approached, leaving no trace except a lingering chill or a subtle sense of presence. Many patrons report feeling that these spectral diners are observing them, watching silently as if the living are temporary intruders in their realm. Conversations and empty rooms are another hallmark of the Phantom Diner. Witnesses have ascribed hearing fragmented dialogue, whispers, and murmurs that seem to echo from the walls or from isolated corners. The voices are often indistinct, fading when someone tries to focus on them, but they leave a lasting impression, creating a feeling that the diner itself is alive with memories of the past. Staff members frequently hear these sounds during quiet hours. REPORTING, the uncanny sensation of being part of a conversation that no living person initiated. Silverware and dishes moving on their own is a frequent and unsettling occurrence. Forks, knives, and spoons have been seen sliding across tables, sometimes tipping over as if nudged by invisible hands. Plates occasionally shift positions, and cups occasionally topple without explanation. Patrons have described sitting in the middle of a meal, only to notice that the items at their table have subtly changed positions, adding to a growing awareness that unseen forces are interacting with the present. Staff often encounter similar phenomena in the kitchen, finding utensils or cookware out of place after leaving the area unattended. These movements, though sometimes small, contribute significantly to the diner's haunted reputation. The tragic fire that occurred decades ago is said to be the source of much of the diner's paranormal activity. Historical accounts revealed that the blaze broke out during a busy evening, trapping several patrons and employees inside. While the building was later restored, the spirits of those who perished are believed to have remained, their presence lingering in the rooms, hallways, and dining areas. Local lore suggests that these spirits continue to reenact moments from that night, whether through fleeting appearances, unexplained sounds, or subtle environmental changes like sudden temperature drops. Visitors often report the sensation of standing in a place charged with both fear and sorrow, as though the air itself carries the weight of long-past tragedy. Cold spots are commonly reported throughout the diner. Guests frequently describe sudden chills that sweep through specific areas, particularly near corners, entrances, and near certain tables. These cold drafts often coincide with other phenomena, such as the appearance of ghostly figures or the sound of whispers. Patrons sometimes feel the cold pass through them as they walk, leaving an unmistakable sense of being touched or followed by something unseen. Staff members, too, have reported sensing sudden temperature drops during evening shifts, sometimes accompanied by a heavy feeling in the air, as if unseen presences are observing or interacting with the living. Flickering lights add another layer to the diner's eerie atmosphere. Lamps and overhead fixtures sometimes glow and dim without cause, creating shadows that shift across walls and floors. Patrons have reported these flickers occurring in patterns, as if signaling or communicating, while others experience lights that flicker when no one is nearby. The visual anomalies, combined with the other phenomena, create an immersive sense that the diner itself is a living entity, resonating with memories and the lingering presence of its former occupants. Footsteps and movement are also frequently noticed. Guests have reported hearing the faint echo of steps in hallways, kitchens, and dining areas when no one is walking nearby. Staff have occasionally followed the sounds, only to find empty corridors, yet the footsteps continue to echo, sometimes in tandem with whispers or moving objects. These auditory experiences contribute to the overwhelming sense that the diner's past is not gone but continues to echo in the present. Paranormal investigators have taken a keen interest in the Phantom Diner, documenting its activity through audio, thermal, and visual equipment. Recordings often capture unexplained whispers, faint conversations, and subtle knocks that cannot be attributed to the building's structure or nearby traffic. Thermal imaging frequently reveals sudden cold spots and anomalies, while motion sensors sometimes detect movement in empty areas. Many investigators report a feeling of being observed, confirming the experiences described by patrons and staff. Occasionally, investigators have captured fleeting images of shadowy figures in doorways or corners, lending further credence to the idea that the diner is home to lingering spirits. Despite its haunting, the Phantom Diner remains a functioning establishment, attracting visitors drawn by both its culinary offerings and its spectral reputation. Patrons come not only to enjoy food but also to experience the thrill of encountering the unexplained. Staff navigate the environment with a mix of acceptance and caution, aware of the unusual activity while continuing their daily routines. Visitors often leave with stories of cold drafts, flickering lights, ghostly conversations, or spectral figures, adding to the collective legend that defines the Phantom Diner. The Crimson Plate in Los Angeles is a restaurant known for its exceptional steaks, elegant decor, and an ambience that draws diners from across the city. Yet beneath its polished exterior lies a history filled with dark tales, tragedies, and unexplained phenomena that have earned it a reputation as one of the city's most haunted eateries. Patrons and staff alike report encounters with ghostly figures, fleeting shadows, and whispers that defy explanation, creating an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural seem to coexist. The origins of the hauntings are often traced to violent accidents that occurred during the restaurant's early years, leaving spirits tethered to the building, replaying fragments of their lives and misfortune for anyone present to witness. Many visitors to the Crimson Plate describe seeing shadows moving across hallways and dining areas, often just at the edge of vision. These fleeting forms dart behind counters, glide along walls, or pause near doorways before vanishing. Some patrons report seeing figures dressed in period clothing, indistinct but unmistakably human, moving with purpose or simply lingering in the corners. When approached, the figures disappear, leaving behind only a lingering chill and a sense of unease. Regular diners have described these sightings as subtle yet persistent, often creating an atmosphere where the past feels alive, hovering just beneath the surface of the modern restaurant. Whispers are another common occurrence at the Crimson Plate. Guests often hear soft murmurs, fragments of conversations, or words and languages that are no longer spoken in Los Angeles. These voices appear in empty hallways, near tables that are unoccupied, and sometimes from behind the counters. Patrons have described whispers calling out names or speaking in urgent tones, disappearing when they attempt to pinpoint their source. Staff members, particularly those working late or during quieter hours, report hearing these voices echo through kitchens and storage areas, sometimes accompanied by sudden, unexplained noises such as doors creaking or utensils clattering. Phantom figures behind counters are frequently mentioned by diners. Some visitors have described seeing the silhouette of a person moving through the kitchen or behind the service area when no one is present. These apparitions sometimes mimic the actions of staff, appearing to prepare meals or tend to duties as if replaying moments from the restaurant's past. Patrons who witness these events often report a sudden drop in temperature or a feeling of being observed, as though the figures are aware of the living in their space. Staff members have occasionally caught glimpses of these figures out of the corner of their eye, only to find empty counters when turning directly toward them. The history of violent accidents within the restaurant's early years is frequently cited as the source of the hauntings. Records and oral histories tell of construction mishaps, kitchen fires, and other sudden deaths that occurred before the building became a fully functioning restaurant. Some locals believe that the spirits of those who perished remained tethered to the Crimson Plate, unable to move on, repeating fragments of their lives and deaths. These energies are thought to manifest as shadows, whispers, and moving objects, creating a sense that the past is embedded in every corner of the building. Unexplained movement of objects is another hallmark of the Crimson Plate's paranormal activity. Chairs, utensils, menus, and other small items have been observed shifting without cause. Patrons have reported forks or knives sliding slightly on tables during meals, while servers occasionally find equipment in unexpected places in the kitchen. Some diners have described seeing plates lift ever so slightly or cups wobble before returning to their original position, creating the impression of invisible hands interacting with the present. These subtle disturbances contribute to the feeling that the restaurant is alive with unseen activity. Cold spots and sudden changes in temperature are a recurring feature of the hauntings. Patrons often report chills in certain areas of the dining room or near hallways that connect to the kitchen and storage areas. These drops in temperature are frequently accompanied by other phenomena, such as whispers, moving shadows, or faint lights flickering. Guests have described standing in one area and feeling an inexplicable cold that moves with them, leaving a physical sensation of being followed or touched by an unseen presence. Staff, too, note that these cold spots often intensify during quiet hours, late at night or early in the morning, suggesting that the spirits are more active when the living presence in the restaurant is minimal. Flickering lights and electrical anomalies further enhance the eerie atmosphere. Lamps, sconces, and overhead fixtures sometimes flicker or dim without any apparent electrical cause. Patrons often report these lights casting unusual shadows that seem to move independently, sometimes forming shapes reminiscent of human figures or gestures. In some instances, diners have seen shadows cross walls and ceilings in patterns that suggest motion or intent, reinforcing the impression that the restaurant is influenced by forces beyond the natural. Footsteps and unexplained sounds are another common element of the haunting. Guests and staff alike have reported hearing faint footsteps echoing along hallways, the creak of floorboards under unseen weight, or the subtle rustle of movement in otherwise empty rooms. These sounds often coincide with visual phenomena, such as shadows or figures, and can create the impression that the building itself is populated by invisible inhabitants, replaying their daily routines from long ago. Paranormal investigators have explored the Crimson Plate extensively, documenting cold spots, auditory anomalies, and visual disturbances. Audio recordings have captured faint whispers, indiscernible voices, and soft footsteps, while thermal cameras often detect sudden fluctuations in temperature. Motion sensors sometimes pick up movement in areas where no one is present, and investigators frequently report a feeling of being observed or followed. Some have even captured fleeting images of shadowy figures near counters or in dining areas, supporting the accounts provided by guests and staff. Despite its reputation, the Crimson Plate remains a popular destination, attracting visitors eager to experience both its culinary offerings and its mysterious history. Patrons leave with stories of shadows, whispers, flickering lights, and phantom activity, reinforcing the diner's legend and perpetuating its status as a haunted hotspot. Staff operate with awareness of the unusual occurrences, balancing daily operations with the subtle presence of the supernatural. The Lighthouse Eatery in Monterey is more than a dining destination. It is a place where the past and the present intermingle in unsettling ways. Situated near the rugged coastline, the restaurant offers sweeping views of the ocean, fog-draped cliffs, and the rhythmic crash of waves, creating an atmosphere both serene and eerily haunting. Visitors, however, often find that the picturesque setting is accompanied by experiences that defy explanation. From ghostly figures appearing at windows to cold gusts sweeping through dining areas, the Lighthouse Eatery is a site where the supernatural seems woven into the very fabric of the building. Locals and guests alike speak of spectral sailors, former patrons who never left, an inexplicable activity that has persisted for decades. Many patrons report seeing apparitions of sailors lingering near the windows, often appearing as shadowy forms or faintly illuminated figures in period maritime attire. These figures sometimes gaze outward, toward the fog-shrouded ocean, as if still attending to unseen duties or watching for ships long gone. Occasionally, the sailors turn toward diners or staff, their features pale and hollow, their eyes carrying the weight of lives lost at sea. When approached, these spectral figures vanish suddenly, leaving behind only a lingering chill and the subtle impression of having witnessed a presence both solemn and attentive. Some guests have described the sensation of being silently observed, a feeling that lingers long after the figures disappear. Former patrons are said to haunt the dining areas as well. Guests occasionally catch glimpses of people seated at empty tables, outlines flickering at the edge of vision, or shadows moving between booths as if navigating familiar spaces from decades past. These figures appear to be engaged in quiet conversation, or sometimes simply sitting in contemplative silence, replaying moments from when the restaurant was first established. Witnesses often describe hearing faint laughter, the clink of silverware, or the subtle rustle of menus, even when the area is devoid of human activity. The presence of these spectral diners creates a sense that the restaurant itself preserves memories, holding them in place like a living archive of the past. Cold gusts and sudden drops in temperature are common experiences at the Lighthouse Eatery. Patrons frequently report chills passing through the dining room, often accompanied by the feeling of being brushed or followed by unseen hands. These cold spots are particularly pronounced near windows, doors, and corners where apparitions are commonly sighted. Guests have described the air growing inexplicably icy while fog rolls in from the ocean, adding an ethereal quality to the experience and heightening the sense that unseen forces are present. Staff members also report similar occurrences, particularly during late hours or in the quiet spaces near the kitchen and storage areas. Chairs and other objects moving without explanation add to the restaurant's spectral reputation. Diners have observed chairs sliding slightly across floors, utensils shifting on tables, or glasses rocking as if nudged by invisible hands. These subtle movements are often accompanied by other paranormal phenomena, such as shadows darting along walls or faint whispers echoing through empty corners. Staff members have described finding chairs pulled out from tables they were certain had been pushed in, or hearing footsteps accompanying the movement of objects when no one else is present. These occurrences, though minor, contribute to the impression that the restaurant is animated by unseen presences, interacting with the living in discreet but unmistakable ways. Flickering lights and electrical anomalies enhance the eerie atmosphere. Overhead lamps, sconces, and decorative lighting sometimes dim or brighten without explanation, casting shifting shadows that seem almost intentional. Patrons have reported seeing ghostly forms appear only in the flickering glow, vanishing when the lights stabilize. These visual anomalies, combined with cold drafts and unexplained sounds, create a setting where the line between the ordinary and the supernatural blurs, making the experience both captivating and unnerving. Whispers and auditory phenomena are frequently reported. Guests have described faint voices, indistinct conversation, or words spoken in tones that feel urgent or pleading. These whispers sometimes call out names, recount fragments of dialogue, or convey emotions that seem to emanate from the very walls of the eatery. Staff working during offers report hearing similar sounds, sometimes accompanied by footsteps or the movement of unseen objects. These auditory experiences reinforce the impression that the Lighthouse Eatery is a place where the past is present, and where the memories of both sailors and patrons continue to echo. The history of the building contributes to the intensity of the hauntings. Established near the coast decades ago, the eatery witnessed the comings and goings of sailors, travelers, and locals. Tales of maritime accidents, shipwrecks, and the occasional tragic death on the premises have circulated through the community for generations. Many locals believe that the spirits bound to the restaurant are anchored by unresolved events, tied to lives interrupted by tragedy or unfinished business. The foggy coastal environment is often seen as a conduit for these lingering energies, amplifying the sense that the supernatural is never far away. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous anomalies at the Lighthouse Eatery, using audio recorders, thermal imaging, and motion sensors to capture activity. Recordings frequently capture whispers and faint footsteps, while thermal devices detect sudden cold spots and unexplained fluctuations in temperature. Motion sensors occasionally register movement in areas devoid of human presence, and investigators often report the sensation of being observed, confirming the accounts shared by both staff and guests. Some have even captured fleeting images of shadowy sailors or patrons in corners and near windows, lending further credence to the claims of spectral activity. Despite its haunted reputation, the Lighthouse Eatery remains a popular destination. Patrons are drawn not only by the food and coastal views, but also by the allure of experiencing the supernatural firsthand. Guests leave with stories of shadowy sailors, ghostly diners, moving chairs, whispers, and cold drafts, each encounter adding to the collective legend of the establishment. Staff operates with a cautious awareness, balancing the everyday tasks of running a restaurant with the ever-present acknowledgement that unseen presences share the space. The Devil's Fork in San Francisco is a restaurant steeped in legend, where the line between culinary delight and the supernatural is blurred. Located in a historic district, the eatery has long attracted patrons, drawn not only to its cuisine, but also to stories of ghostly activity and unexplained phenomena. Its name, ominous and memorable, hints at a dark past that continues to influence the present. Guests and staff have reported shadows moving in mirrors, flickering lights, and the soft echo of footsteps with no apparent source. Many claim that the spirits of chefs from over a century ago remain tethered to the restaurant, endlessly preparing meals that will never be served, while other presences linger in corners, watching the living as they navigate the space. Visitors often describe seeing shadows flit across mirrors and reflective surfaces. These shapes sometimes appear humanoid, dressed in period attire reminiscent of the restaurant's early years, and seem to move independently of the physical world. Patrons have reported glimpses of these figures when turning away from a mirror, only for the shape to vanish when they look directly. Mirrors in the dining room and hallways are particularly active, reflecting movements that cannot be explained by passing guests or staff. Some diners have even seen a figure pause as if to observe them before fading into the glass, leaving behind only a lingering chill and a sense of being watched. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the Devil's Fork. Chandeliers, sconces, and overhead fixtures occasionally dim, brighten, or stutter without any electrical cause. Patrons often describe shadows stretching across walls and ceilings during these brief anomalies, creating an atmosphere where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect. The flickering lights have been reported to coincide with other paranormal phenomena, such as cold spots, moving objects, or unexplained noises, adding to the sense that the restaurant is alive with unseen activity. Unexplained footsteps are common in both the dining and kitchen areas. Guests have heard the sound of boots or shoes moving across wooden floors, the creak of floorboards under invisible weight, or soft scuffing in empty hallways. Staff members working late have reported hearing these sounds echoing behind them, only to find no one present when they turn. Some describe the footsteps as deliberate and methodical, suggesting purpose or routine, while others are fleeting and random, vanishing as abruptly as they begin. These auditory phenomena reinforce the idea that the restaurant is occupied by spirits who continue their daily tasks in the afterlife. One of the most persistent reports involves the spirits of chefs from the Devil's Fork's early years. Patrons and staff have occasionally seen figures dressed in old-fashioned chef attire, moving in the kitchen or behind counters. These apparitions appear to be preparing meals, chopping ingredients, or stirring pots, though no one else is present. Diners near the kitchen have sometimes caught glimpses of shadowy forms, moving utensils or arranging plates, only to vanish moments later. Some witnesses report the faint aroma of spices, herbs, or cooked meat accompanying these sightings, as if the culinary essence of the past is lingering alongside the spirits themselves. Objects moving without explanation contribute to the restaurant's eerie reputation. Guests have seen chairs slide slightly across the floor, utensils shift, or menus flutter open without cause. Staff occasionally find kitchen tools or plates in unusual positions, often after having placed them elsewhere. These minor movements are typically subtle but consistent, suggesting interaction by unseen hands. Patrons report a sense that these phenomena are not malicious, but rather a continuation of the routine actions of those who once lived and worked in the restaurant. Cold spots and sudden changes in temperature are frequent occurrences. Patrons often feel a sudden chill in certain corners or near mirrors, accompanied by goosebumps or a shiver that cannot be explained by the environment. These cold drafts often coincide with visual or auditory activity, heightening the feeling of a spectral presence. Staff members note that these chills are most pronounced during late hours, when the dining room is empty or sparsely populated, suggesting the spirits are more active when the living presence is minimal. Whispers and murmurs further enhance the unsettling atmosphere. Guests report hearing fragments of conversation, sometimes in languages no longer commonly spoken in San Francisco. These whispers appear to originate from empty corners, hallways, or the kitchen, often calling names. recounting incomplete dialogue, or conveying emotions tied to past events. Staff working during quieter hours have also reported hearing these whispers, occasionally accompanied by subtle movements of objects or shadows in their peripheral vision. The history of the Devil's Fork plays a central role in its haunted reputation. Built over a century ago, the building has witnessed fires, accidents, and personal tragedies connected to its long line of chefs and owners. Some locals believe that the spirits lingering in the restaurant are bound to it by unfinished business, unresolved conflicts, or devotion to their culinary craft. The fog and cool coastal air of San Francisco are often thought to intensify these lingering energies, creating an environment where the supernatural is almost tangible. Paranormal investigators have explored the restaurant extensively, documenting cold spots, auditory anomalies, and visual disturbances. Audio recordings capture whispers and footsteps, while thermal imaging shows unexplained fluctuations in temperature. Motion sensors have detected movement in areas with no human presence, and investigators often report a persistent feeling of being observed or followed. Some have even captured images of ghostly chefs in kitchen areas or shadows reflected in mirrors, supporting the claims made by diners and staff. Despite its spectral reputation, the Devil's Fork continues to thrive as a dining destination. Patrons are drawn both by its cuisine and the allure of experiencing a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge. Guests leave with stories of shadows, flickering lights, cold drafts, phantom footsteps, and the ghostly presence of chefs, ensuring that the legend of the Devil's Fork endures. Staff work with an awareness of the unusual activity, balancing daily operations with the knowledge that the spirits of the past remain actively present, creating a dining experience unlike any other. The Iron Kettle in Sacramento is more than a restaurant. It is a place where the ordinary hum of cooking and conversation is often interrupted by the extraordinary. Situated in a historic neighborhood, the building itself exudes an old-world charm. With brick walls, wooden beams, and a kitchen that has seen decades of service. Yet, behind its inviting facade, lies a history steeped in mystery and tragedy. Patrons and staff alike have reported ghostly figures moving through the kitchen, unexplained sounds, and doors opening without human touch. Some claim these spirits are replaying the last moments of past owners, trapped in cycles of unfinished business, forever intertwined with the restaurant's daily life. Many visitors first notice the activity in the kitchen. Patrons, seated near the pass-through or open counters, often hear the sudden clang of pots and pans, as if an invisible cook is bustling about. Some describe utensils rattling on counters or knives sliding across cutting boards with no one present. Waitstaff frequently report seeing shadowy figures among the shelves, moving with deliberate intent, yet vanishing when approached. These apparitions are often said to resemble former chefs or owners, dressed in period attire, performing tasks with a precision that suggests a devotion carried over from life. Doors opening on their own is another common experience at the Iron Kettle. Guests have reported main entrance doors swinging wide despite locked handles, pantry doors clicking open, and kitchen doors creaking as if someone is passing through. Patrons seated near these areas often feel a sudden draft accompanying the movement, as though the spirits themselves create an unseen current. Staff describe these phenomena as both startling and oddly ritualistic, with doors sometimes moving at the exact moments when the kitchen should be empty or when certain routines are expected. The interplay between these physical movements and the presence of unseen entities creates an atmosphere where the restaurant feels alive in both the mundane and the supernatural sense. Whispers are frequently reported throughout the dining room and kitchen. Patrons have described hearing hushed conversations, fragments of names, or snippets of commands, often when no other person is present. Staff working late have also reported hearing soft murmurs, sometimes followed by the sound of footsteps or the rustle of papers and linens. These auditory phenomena are not always threatening. Some appear to be the echoes of past conversations or instructions, frozen in time and replaying through the walls. Guests often feel a presence hovering nearby when these whispers occur, a subtle sense of being observed that lingers long after the sound fades. Shadowy figures are the most unsettling and consistent element of the haunting. Patrons occasionally glimpse silhouettes moving behind kitchen windows, around shelves, or along corridors. These figures sometimes resemble former chefs, meticulously preparing dishes, or owners inspecting the premises. Witnesses describe the figures as semi-transparent or vaguely defined, with edges that blur into the surrounding shadows. When approached, the shadows vanish instantly, leaving only the faintest residue of cold air or the lingering smell of cooked food that has no source in the present. Cold spots and sudden shifts in temperature are also common experiences at the Iron Kettle. Guests report feeling icy drafts in certain corners, particularly near the kitchen and storage areas. These chills often coincide with other phenomena, such as the clanging of pots, doors moving, or shadowy figures appearing. Staff members describe these temperature drops as sudden and localized, as if the presence of the unseen entities displaces the normal warmth of the building. Many patrons find these cold spots accompanied by an emotional wetter, sense of melancholy or unfinished business that seems to emanate from the walls themselves. The Iron Kettle's tragic history adds context to the hauntings. The building has housed multiple generations of owners, some of whom experienced sudden deaths, accidents, or personal misfortune. Local lore suggests that these events left imprints on the property, binding the spirits of past residents to the spaces they once occupied. Some investigators propose that the spirits are reenacting critical moments from their lives, preparing meals, moving through the kitchen, or attending to the restaurant as they did in life. These cyclical behaviors suggest a lingering attachment to the routines and responsibilities that defined their existence. Paranormal investigators have visited the Iron Kettle, documenting numerous anomalies. Audio recordings capture faint whispers and the clanging of metal without explanation. Thermal imaging often reveals cold spots or unexplained movements in areas free of human presence. Motion sensors sometimes register activity in empty corridors or storage rooms, while investigators report the sensation of being watched or subtly guided by unseen hands. Some have even captured fleeting images of shadowy chefs or figures in the kitchen, lending credence to the numerous first-hand accounts shared by diners and staff over the years. Despite its haunted reputation, the Iron Kettle continues to attract patrons. Many visitors are drawn by the food, ambience, and the thrill of dining in a location steeped in history and mystery. Guests often leave sharing stories of clanging pots, whispers, moving doors, and shadowy figures, adding to the collective legend of the restaurant. Staff operate with a keen awareness of the supernatural, balancing their duties while acknowledging the persistent presence of past owners and chefs. The Velvet Table in Los Angeles is a restaurant known for its glamorous atmosphere, elegant decor, and fine dining experience. But behind its sparkling facade lies a darker, more mysterious side. Patrons and staff alike have long whispered about strange occurrences, shadows moving in corners, and the soft echo of footsteps when no one appears to be present. The restaurant has become a locus for tales of restless spirits, many tied to tragic events that occurred decades ago. Guests often report that the most active areas are near tables where accidents or sudden deaths once took place, suggesting that the spirits linger in spots connected to powerful memories or unresolved events. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Velvet Table involves chairs moving on their own. Diners occasionally notice their chairs sliding slightly backward or sideways, as if nudged by an invisible hand. Waitstaff have reported chairs rattling or shifting when no one is nearby, sometimes causing minor accidents or startling guests. These movements are typically subtle, but they are consistent enough to leave a lasting impression on those who witness them. Some patrons feel a gentle pressure, as if someone is adjusting their seating, adding to the sense of a presence unseen but tangibly close. Soft footsteps echoing through empty dining areas are another frequent occurrence. Guests often describe hearing the sound of polished shoes gliding across the floorboards, approaching tables or weaving between booths, only for the noises to disappear when investigated. Staff working late or during quiet hours frequently experience these phantom footsteps in corridors and near storage rooms. Some have reported that the footsteps correspond with the shadows seen along walls or in corners, suggesting the movements of entities tethered to the space, replaying actions from their lives or deaths long ago. Shadows are particularly active at the Velvet Table. Patrons often glimpse dark, shifting figures in peripheral vision, only for them to vanish when directly looked at. These shadows sometimes appear humanoid, dressed in clothing reminiscent of past decades, and may pause near tables before fading into the decor. Witnesses describe a sensation of being observed or even accompanied by the presence, as though these spirits are lingering out of curiosity or obligation. In some cases, shadows are reported near spots where accidents occurred, suggesting a lingering attachment to the energy of those moments. Whispers and murmurs are often reported, though faint and difficult to capture. Guests have described hearing fragments of conversations, names, or soft exclamations coming from empty corners or behind closed doors. Staff working in the kitchen or cleaning the dining area during off hours have reported hearing voices that vanish as soon as they try to locate the source. These whispers often coincide with other activity, such as moving chairs, flickering lights, or cold drafts, creating a multi-sensory experience that many describe as unnerving but compelling. Cold spots are another hallmark of the haunting at the Velvet Table. Patrons sitting near certain areas of the restaurant sometimes feel sudden drops in temperature, accompanied by goosebumps or a chill that seems to linger even when surrounded by warmth. These cold drafts often appear near locations of prior accidents or intense emotional events, suggesting a connection between the temperature anomalies and residual spiritual energy. Staff report experiencing these chills most frequently during the late evening hours, when the restaurant is empty and the echoes of past activity are said to be strongest. The history of the Velvet Table adds depth to its reputation. Built decades ago as an upscale dining establishment, it has witnessed numerous social events, private dinners, and occasional tragedies. Stories passed down include patrons who fell ill or suffered accidents, staff members who died unexpectedly, and heated arguments that ended in calamity. Local lore suggests that the spirits of those who died in the building remain attached to the site, repeating behaviors, observing the living, or simply lingering where they experienced strong emotions. Paranormal investigators who have visited the restaurant often report multiple anomalies, from audio recordings capturing whispers to thermal imaging revealing cold spots and shadowy figures in empty rooms. Many of the reported hauntings seem linked to tables associated with these tragic events. Guests seated in these areas often feel the most pronounced activity: chairs moving, cold spots forming, shadows lingering nearby, and whispers becoming audible. Some visitors have reported seeing fleeting images of people who appear to be reenacting moments from the past. Their gestures frozen in time, yet disturbingly lifelike. In certain cases, diners claim to have been followed by a sense of presence from table to table, a silent observer that seems curious but not overtly hostile. Despite its haunted reputation, the Velvet Table continues to thrive as a dining destination. Patrons are drawn by the elegant atmosphere, fine cuisine, and the allure of experiencing a restaurant where history and the supernatural intermingle. Many guests enjoy the thrill of witnessing unexplained phenomena, from ghostly movements to subtle sensory shifts, while staff operates with a heightened awareness of the unseen. Waitstaff and management acknowledge the activity, treating it as part of the restaurant's character and history rather than a threat, creating an environment where the living and the spectral coexist in uneasy harmony. The Velvet Table remains a site where elegance and the paranormal intersect, where shadows drift silently along walls, whispers echo from empty corners, and chairs move as though unseen diners remain at the tables. Patrons often leave with stories of their experiences: soft footsteps, sudden chills, fleeting figures, and the sense of being watched, ensuring that the legend of the Velvet Table endures. The restaurant is a place where past and present overlap, where tragic memories are replayed subtly but insistently, and where diners share the space with spirits bound by history, curiosity, and perhaps unfinished business. The Silent Spoon in San Diego is a restaurant that blends a cozy dining atmosphere with a history shrouded in eerie mystery. The building, with its warm wooden tables, soft ambient lighting, and rustic decor, seems welcoming at first glance. Yet beneath its inviting exterior lies a reputation for paranormal activity that has drawn curiosity, fear, and fascination for decades. Guests often report hearing whispers, ghostly laughter, and chairs scraping across the floor when no one is present. Some claim to see figures reflected in the mirrors that vanish the moment they turn to look, leaving only the memory of movement and the lingering chill of the unexplained. The experiences reported by visitors and staff suggest that the Silent Spoon is more than a restaurant. It is a place where the past continues to echo in the present, and the spirits of former patrons or staff seem unwilling to leave. Whispers are among the most frequently reported phenomena at the Silent Spoon. Diners seated near corners, mirrors, or doorways sometimes hear faint voices, fragmented sentences, or even names being called. These sounds often appear indistinct, yet unmistakable, as though coming from multiple directions at once. Patrons ascribe feeling watched or acknowledged by unseen presences, and staff have noted that the whispers often intensify when the restaurant is quiet, especially after hours. Sometimes these whispers are playful, like fragments of laughter or casual conversation, while at other times they carry a more somber tone, as if echoing unfinished business from long ago. Ghostly laughter is another hallmark of the hauntings. Visitors recount hearing soft, echoing giggles drifting across dining areas or appearing to come from empty rooms. The laughter is not constant but intermittent, often beginning suddenly and fading as mysteriously as it arrives. Staff have reported hearing laughter in the kitchen or back rooms, sometimes coinciding with other phenomena like chairs moving, doors creaking, or silverware shifting. The layered quality of the laughter often makes it seem as though multiple spirits are present, interacting invisibly with one another, and with the living as well. Perhaps the most unsettling experiences involve the movement of furniture. Guests and staff alike have witnessed chairs sliding across the floor, scraping lightly on the wooden surfaces, or tipping over without any human touch. These movements are most commonly reported in quieter sections of the restaurant, though some diners claim it has happened during busy service hours. There is often a subtle physical sensation accompanying the chair movements, a feeling of pressure or gentle touch, as if an invisible hand is adjusting seating or attempting to interact. Such occurrences leave patrons startled, sometimes prompting them to move tables or chairs back themselves, only to find them again displaced moments later. Mirrors throughout the Silent Spoon often provide the most dramatic and visible haunting. Patrons have reported catching glimpses of figures reflected in glass or polished surfaces, appearing to move or linger in ways that defy reality. These apparitions are typically shadowy and indistinct, sometimes resembling former diners or staff in clothing from decades past. The most unnerving aspect is that these figures vanish when looked at directly, leaving only the impression of movement and the lingering sensation of being watched. Staff members often report seeing these reflections from peripheral angles, only to find nothing present upon closer inspection. The mirrors seem to act as windows into the past, allowing brief glimpses of a time and place that continue to resonate within the restaurant. Sudden cold spots and inexplicable changes in temperature accompany many of the hauntings. Guests report chills that appear without warning, often near mirrors, corners, or areas previously occupied by other patrons. Staff working late or during slow hours have described sharp drops in temperature that cannot be accounted for by HVAC systems, doors, or open windows. These cold pockets are often paired with whispers, fleeting shadows, or the movement of chairs, suggesting that the spirits are actively present rather than passive echoes. The physical sensations contribute to a pervasive feeling that the Silent Spoon is alive with unseen activity. The history of the building provides context for these occurrences. The restaurant has occupied a space that has seen decades of activity, hosting countless patrons and employees. Tragedies, accidents, and moments of high emotion over the years have likely contributed to residual energy, creating an environment where spirits might linger. Paranormal investigators visiting the Silent Spoon have reported audio anomalies, cold spots, and visual recordings capturing shadowy figures moving across the dining room and kitchen. These findings suggest that the spirits are not mere figments of imagination, but persistent presences, replaying aspects of their lives in a loop that intersects with the present. Despite the eerie activity, the Silent Spoon remains a popular destination. Many patrons are drawn to the combination of excellent cuisine and the thrill of encountering the unexplained. Guests often leave with stories of whispers, laughter, or fleeting glimpses of shadows, recounting the experiences as part of the restaurant's unique character. Staff members have grown accustomed to working in the presence of these unexplained phenomena, acknowledging the spirits as part of the building's history rather than a threat. The Red Lantern in San Francisco is a restaurant that carries a history as rich and vibrant as the city itself. But it also harbors an eerie reputation that has fascinated locals and visitors alike. Housed in a historic building with exposed brick walls, vintage wooden beams, and dim lighting, the Red Lantern offers a warm, inviting atmosphere on the surface. Yet beneath this cozy exterior, countless reports of paranormal activity have emerged over the years. Guests have seen figures pacing the floors, experienced flickering lights, and witnessed utensils moving as if unseen hands were at work. Some explorers have left in fear after hearing voices whisper their names, a chilling testament to the lingering presence of spirits who once inhabited the space. The haunting at the Red Lantern manifests in a variety of ways, the most common being the appearance of ghostly figures. Patrons seated near corners, stairwells, or hallways sometimes glimpse shadowy silhouettes pacing across the floors. These figures are usually fleeting, vanishing when observed directly, leaving only the impression of movement and an inexplicable sense of being watched. Staff working late shifts often report seeing these apparitions in the kitchen or back rooms, moving with deliberate steps as if performing tasks long forgotten. The figures are frequently described as translucent or shadowy, sometimes resembling former patrons or employees from decades past, and their presence seems more observational than hostile, though unnerving nonetheless. Lights flickering without cause are another hallmark of the hauntings. Guests and staff alike have experienced sudden, unexplained fluctuations in brightness. Chandeliers dim and brighten, while sconces flicker, and neon signs pulse irregularly. These light disturbances are often concentrated near areas of reported apparitions or in older sections of the building, hinting at a connection between electrical phenomena and the spirit's presence. For some, the flickering lights serve as a warning or signal of nearby activity, often preceding other paranormal events like footsteps, whispers, or objects moving on their own. The movement of objects is among the most tangible and unsettling aspects of the hauntings. Utensils, plates, and glasses have been reported sliding across tables, sometimes tipped or rearranged without human intervention. Staff have recounted stories of kitchen knives shifting slightly, pots rattling, and ingredients appearing to fall from shelves as if handled by invisible hands. Patrons dining near these incidents often feel a sudden chill or sense of proximity, as though someone unseen is standing close by. The object's movement is often subtle yet precise, giving the impression that the spirits retain a familiarity with the restaurant's routines, continuing to engage with the space in ways that mirror past activities. Whispers and voices are frequently reported at the Red Lantern, adding a psychological layer to the haunting. Guests have heard faint murmurs, snippets of conversation, and even their own names being called, seemingly from empty corners or above the dining area. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by other paranormal activity, such as flickering lights, moving objects, or fleeting shadows. Staff members working late into the night have sometimes paused mid-task, convinced that instructions or remarks are being directed at them by unseen entities. The whispers create a sensation of being observed and acknowledged by presences that are invisible yet undeniably real, leaving a lingering tension in the air. Cold spots and sudden temperature drops enhance the feeling of an active haunting. Patrons have reported feeling inexplicable chills while seated at tables, near doorways, or in hallways where apparitions are often sighted. Staff working in the kitchen or storage areas have described sharp, localized drops in temperature, accompanied by a sensation of pressure or an unseen presence. These cold spots often coincide with other phenomena, suggesting that the spirits are not merely residual echoes, but active presences interacting with the living world. The history of the Red Lantern provides context for these experiences. The building has been in use for over a century, originally serving as a gathering spot for locals, including restaurant staff, travelers, and members of the surrounding community. Stories of accidents, untimely deaths, and moments of high emotion over the years have likely created an accumulation of residual energy. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site report audio anomalies, unexplained shadows, and objects moving without physical cause, suggesting that the spirits are replaying fragments of their lives and interactions within the space. Despite its reputation for hauntings, the Red Lantern continues to draw visitors who are intrigued by both its culinary offerings and its supernatural lore. Guests often arrive with a mix of curiosity and trepidation, eager to experience the atmosphere for themselves. Many leave with tales of whispers, cold chills, flickering lights, or glimpses of shadowy figures, recounting their experiences as part of the unique character of the restaurant. Staff members have grown accustomed to these occurrences, often considering them a normal aspect of the building's presence rather than a threat. Navigating the dining and kitchen areas with an awareness of the unseen companions that share the space. The Ghostly Plate in Los Angeles is a restaurant that has long fascinated both locals and visitors, not only for its cuisine, but for the eerie, unexplained phenomena that seem to linger within its walls. Tucked into a historic district, the building's exterior is charmingly classic, with large windows and ornate detailing that hint at decades of history. Inside, wooden tables, polished silverware, and dim, intimate lighting create a welcoming environment for diners. Yet beneath this ordinary, inviting appearance, stories of hauntings have persisted for years. Guests frequently report hearing the faint clinking of cutlery, ghostly murmurs, and sudden cold spots near empty tables. Some claim that apparitions appear in mirrors, silently observing diners, creating a sense that the past refuses to rest and that the spirits of former patrons continue to inhabit the space. The most common phenomenon reported at the Ghostly Plate is the sound of cutlery moving on its own. Patrons seated near corners or empty tables often hear the soft, unmistakable clink of forks, knives, and spoons colliding, as if in the hands of invisible diners. Sometimes the sounds seem to move from table to table, echoing faintly across the dining area. Staff members have described hearing utensils tapping against plates in storage rooms or the kitchen, even when no one is present. The subtlety of the sounds, combined with the absence of any visible cause, creates a chilling sense that someone or something is continuing the routines of dining, a lingering presence unwilling to leave the restaurant entirely. Ghostly murmurs and whispers often accompany the sound of cutlery. Guests frequently report hearing faint conversations, soft laughter, or fragments of speech that seem to drift through the air from empty tables. Sometimes the whispers are directed at diners, as if calling their names or responding to their movements. Other times, they are indistinct but unmistakable, overlapping as though multiple voices occupy the same space. Staff working late have described the eerie sensation of conversations taking place in the dining room or hallways when no patrons are present. These murmurs contribute to a growing awareness among visitors that the restaurant is alive with echoes from the past, lingering in ways that are both unsettling and fascinating. Sudden cold spots are another hallmark of the hauntings at the Ghostly Plate. Patrons and staff alike report feeling sharp drops in temperature, often near empty tables, corners, or mirrors. These chills appear without warning, creating a sensation that an unseen presence has passed close by. Some diners describe feeling as though they are being watched while seated, sensing the presence of spirits who are invisible yet tangible through the physical sensations they leave behind. Staff have noted that these cold spots often coincide with the sounds of clinking cutlery or whispered voices, suggesting a connection between auditory and physical phenomena that reinforces the feeling of a persistent haunting. Mirrors throughout the restaurant seem to serve as windows into another world. Guests report catching glimpses of shadowy figures or ghostly diners reflected in glass surfaces, only for the apparitions to vanish when directly observed. Some visitors describe seeing figures dressed in attire from decades past, as if the mirrors provide a glimpse into a time when the restaurant was filled with life and activity. Staff have occasionally reported seeing their own reflections momentarily altered, with the shadow of someone standing behind them in the mirror's surface, only to find no one there upon turning. These experiences suggest that the spirits at the ghostly plate are not merely echoes, but entities capable of interacting with the environment and those within it in subtle yet profound ways. The history of the ghostly plate provides context for these phenomena. The building has served countless diners over decades, witnessing celebrations, arguments, and everyday moments of life that now linger as energy within the walls. Accidents, untimely deaths, and intense emotional moments throughout the restaurant. As history may have contributed to the persistence of these spirits. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site report audio anomalies, cold spots, and visual evidence of shadowy figures moving through dining areas and hallways. These findings suggest that the hauntings are more than folklore. They are manifestations of residual energy, and perhaps the active presence of spirits unwilling to leave the space they once occupied. Despite its reputation, the ghostly plate remains a beloved dining destination. Guests are drawn to the combination of excellent cuisine and the thrill of the paranormal, often arriving with curiosity and a sense of anticipation. Many leave with stories of clinking cutlery, whispered voices, cold chills, or fleeting apparitions, recounting their experiences as part of the restaurant's unique character. Staff members have learned to navigate the dining area with an awareness of the unseen presences, treating them as a familiar part of the environment rather than a threat. The Blue Oyster in Santa Monica is a restaurant steeped in history, both celebrated for its coastal cuisine and infamous for its dark, unsettling past. Once the site of violent incidents and tragic events, the building has since been converted into a popular dining spot. Yet it carries an atmosphere that many claim is difficult to ignore. Patrons and staff alike report experiences that defy explanation: flickering lights, ghostly apparitions in hallways, whispers echoing from empty rooms, and the sudden sensation of an icy breath on the neck. The hauntings at the Blue Oyster are subtle yet persistent, creating an environment where the past continues to intermingle with the present in ways both chilling and fascinating. The flickering of lights is among the most frequently reported phenomena. Guests have described chandeliers and wall sconces dimming and brightening without cause, sometimes in synchronization with other strange occurrences. Staff members working late shifts have recounted moments when the overhead lights stutter, casting uneven shadows across tables and hallways. Often, these electrical anomalies precede sightings of apparitions or the sounds of whispers, suggesting a connection between the physical environment and the spectral presence. The effect is disorienting. Diners feel a subtle shift in the ambience, a sense that something unseen has entered the room. Ghostly apparitions are another hallmark of the Blue Oyster's reputation. Patrons walking through hallways or approaching restroom corridors occasionally report fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures, often dressed in outdated attire. These figures are described as semi-transparent, sometimes pausing to observe before vanishing entirely. Staff members have reported seeing silhouettes moving past kitchen doors or along back hallways, only to find no one present upon investigation. The apparitions rarely interact aggressively with visitors, but their presence is undeniably unnerving, leaving diners with a sense of being watched by those who no longer belong to the living world. Whispers are among the most unsettling experiences reported at the Blue Oyster. Guests have described hearing fragmented conversations, murmured names, or soft warnings, often coming from areas of the restaurant that appear empty. Staff working alone in storage rooms or cleaning after hours have recounted hearing voices calling from corridors, seemingly moving from one corner to another. These auditory phenomena often coincide with flickering lights or sightings of apparitions, creating an atmosphere of layered, unexplainable activity. The whispers are subtle yet unmistakable, as though the spirits are attempting to communicate or perhaps simply replaying fragments of lives long ended. Icy drafts add a tangible, physical component to the haunting. Patrons seated near hallways or in corner booths sometimes feel a sudden chill, often concentrated along the neck or shoulders, giving the unmistakable sensation of a breath from someone unseen. Staff members cleaning or moving through the restaurant after hours report similar experiences, describing sudden drops in temperature accompanied by the sensation of being followed. These cold spots often occur in conjunction with auditory and visual phenomena, suggesting that the spirits are not passive echoes, but actively present within the environment, aware of those who enter the space. The history of the Blue Oyster provides context for these experiences. Decades ago, the building was the site of violent events that left their mark on the location, creating residual energy that may explain the continued hauntings. From brawls and altercations to tragic accidents, the space has borne witness to intense emotional and physical turmoil. Paranormal investigators visiting the site have documented audio anomalies, unexplained shadows, and fluctuations in temperature that support eyewitness accounts. These investigations suggest that the hauntings are more than local lore. They are manifestations of lingering energy from the building's turbulent past. Despite its eerie reputation, the Blue Oyster continues to attract diners. Some are drawn by curiosity, seeking to experience the restaurant's famed cuisine while hoping to encounter the unexplained. Others approach with a mix of apprehension and excitement, intrigued by reports of flickering lights, whispers, and fleeting apparitions. Many leave with stories of subtle movements, cold drafts, or glimpses of shadowy figures, recounting their experiences as an unforgettable element of dining at the historic restaurant. Staff members have adapted to these occurrences, often moving through the space with an awareness of unseen presences, treating the hauntings as part of the building's character rather than a threat. The hauntings at the Blue Oyster reflect a complex interplay between history, memory, and residual energy. Flickering lights, shadowy apparitions, whispers, and icy drafts create an atmosphere where past and present intertwine, reminding patrons that the restaurant's story is not confined to the culinary experience alone. Guests dine under the silent observation of spirits, sensing presences that refuse to leave even as the world moves on around them. The Blue Oyster stands as a testament to the persistence of history, a space where echoes of past violence, sorrow, and daily life continue to manifest in subtle, chilling ways. The Black Cat Cafe in San Diego is a place where culinary delights meet unsettling supernatural occurrences. Housed in a historic building with worn brick walls and vintage decor, the cafe has long been known for its atmosphere as much as its menu. Patrons often remark on the cozy charm of the space, but over the years, countless stories have emerged of unexplained phenomena, shadows that move independently across walls, chairs sliding as if guided by unseen hands, whispers that emerge from corners where no one stands, and an elusive, cat-shaped apparition prowling the dining area have contributed to the cafe's eerie reputation. The Black Cat Cafe is a destination where the ordinary and the supernatural intersect, creating an experience that lingers long after the last bite of food is eaten. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Black Cat Cafe is the movement of shadows. Diners seated near windows or along hallways have described seeing dark shapes pass across walls or ceilings without any apparent source. Sometimes, the shadows appear humanoid, fleeting past patrons or staff, only to vanish when directly observed. Other times, they take on more abstract forms, shifting and twisting in ways that seem almost alive. Staff members have recounted instances where shadows move across kitchen walls while no one is present, or along hallways when the lights are off. The visual strangeness, paired with the feeling of being watched, creates a subtle but constant tension throughout the cafe. Chairs sliding and tables shifting are other phenomena that regularly unsettle guests. Patrons have reported chairs scraping against the floor as though someone had sat down or stood up in a hurry, only to find the seats empty. Sometimes these movements occur when the dining room is otherwise silent, leaving diners to question whether the motion is natural or the result of an unseen presence. Employees working late shifts or cleaning after hours have also observed chairs moving in isolated areas, often accompanied by faint noises resembling footsteps. These subtle but unmistakable events suggest that the cafe is alive with an energy that refuses to remain dormant. Whispers are another defining feature of the hauntings at the Black Cat Cafe. Guests often hear faint conversations emanating from corners or empty tables, sometimes drifting over the clinking of plates and the chatter of ordinary diners. These voices are almost never intelligible in full, but carry the unmistakable cadence of human speech. Staff working during quieter hours have reported hearing their names spoken from areas that should be empty, or the soft murmur of dialogue seeming to circle around them as they move through the dining room. The whispers are persistent, yet elusive, lending the cafe an air of secrecy, as though the walls themselves are communicating the memories of past events. Perhaps the most intriguing and mysterious element of the Black Cat Cafe is the cat-shaped apparition reported by many visitors. Descriptions vary, but most agree on a shadowy feline form that prowls the cafe during the night, often along the edges of hallways, near tables, or atop counters. Patrons seated late in the evening have occasionally glimpsed it, slipping silently across the floor, disappearing into corners or through doorways with an almost deliberate stealth. Staff describe the figure as moving independently of any living creature, appearing and vanishing without a trace. Some speculate that it is tied to the history of the cafe, embodying the lingering presence of a once real cat that roamed the premises decades ago, or serving as a spectral guardian of the building itself. The history of the Black Cat Cafe offers some context for these hauntings. The building has witnessed its share of tragic events, from accidents to sudden deaths, many of which involved both staff and patrons over the years. It is believed that the energy from these intense moments has lingered within the walls, manifesting in ways that affect current diners and staff. Paranormal investigators who have visited the cafe report cold spots, EMF fluctuations, and recordings of faint whispers in areas that appear empty. These findings align with countless first-hand accounts, suggesting that the hauntings are more than anecdotal. They are tangible phenomena that persist in the space. Despite the reputation for the supernatural, the Black Cat Cafe remains a popular dining spot. Patrons are drawn not only by the food, but by the intrigue of the unexplained. Many guests arrive with curiosity, hoping to experience a ghostly encounter or witness the movements of the cat-shaped apparition themselves. Diners often leave recounting stories of shadows moving across walls, chairs sliding on their own, or the cold brush of air that signals a presence nearby. Employees have adapted to the cafe's spectral resonance, moving through the space with awareness of unseen observers, treating the hauntings as part of the cafe's character rather than a disruption. The cafe's hauntings are a blend of visual, auditory, and physical phenomena that together create a compelling atmosphere. Shadows move in unpredictable patterns, whispers emerge from the corners, chairs slide across the floor, and the elusive cat prowls silently. Each occurrence reminds diners that the space is more than a mere restaurant. It is a living repository of history, memory, and energy. The Black Cat Cafe embodies a unique intersection of the tangible and the spectral, where the echoes of past events continue to interact with the present. For those who visit, dining at the Black Cat Cafe is an experience beyond the ordinary. Every flicker of a shadow, scrape of a chair, whispered murmur, or glimpse of the spectral feline serves as a reminder that the past is never truly gone. The building itself holds the stories, tragedies, and secrets of decades, manifesting in ways that engage the senses and provoke a sense of awe, fear, and curiosity. Guests leave with the memory of more than a meal. They carry with them the lingering presence of a place where the supernatural and the everyday coexist, where the cat-shaped guardian prowls silently, and where the spirits of the past remain ever watchful. The Phantom Fork in Los Angeles is more than a dining establishment. It is a place where history and the supernatural collide, nestled in a corner of the city. This restaurant has gained a reputation for unexplained occurrences that have left both patrons and staff uneasy. Stories have circulated for years about ghostly figures pacing the kitchen, objects moving without human contact, and sudden, chilling drafts that seem to appear out of nowhere. Locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike claim that the spirits of chefs and diners linger in the space, replaying moments from their final experiences, bound to the restaurant by memories that refuse to fade. Guests often describe entering the Phantom Fork with the expectation of enjoying a meal, only to be confronted by inexplicable sensations. Many first notice the temperature dropping sharply in certain areas, particularly near the kitchen or along narrow corridors. These cold drafts seem to have no origin, often brushing past diners seated in the main room or creeping along hallways where no doors or windows are open. The chilling effect is accompanied, in some cases, by a feeling of being watched, a sensation so strong that patrons report glancing around the room instinctively, convinced that someone or something is observing their every move. The most commonly reported phenomenon involves ghostly figures, typically seen in the kitchen or behind the service counters. Staff and patrons alike have recounted sightings of chefs walking along prep areas, their motions deliberate yet slightly disjointed, as if caught in an endless loop. Some describe these apparitions wearing period clothing, suggesting that the spirits date back decades, remnants of a past era of culinary bustle. At times, the figures appear fully corporeal, moving with precision as they stir pots, chop vegetables, or adjust utensils. At other moments, they seem to flicker like shadows, vanishing when approached or when one tries to get a closer look. Objects moving on their own is another hallmark of the Phantom Fork's hauntings. Chairs slide across the floor, dishes shift slightly, and utensils occasionally clatter without explanation. Patrons have reported glasses tipping over, salt and pepper shakers sliding, and napkins being lifted from tables as if an invisible hand were arranging them. In the kitchen, knives and cooking tools sometimes rattle or fall from countertops, startling the staff and creating an air of constant tension. While many movements are subtle, others are dramatic enough to draw attention from diners, adding a sense of unpredictability to every visit. The whispers and sounds that permeate the Phantom Fork contribute to its otherworldly ambience. Guests occasionally hear faint murmurs coming from empty corners, voices blending together in indistinct conversations that seem to echo from the past. Some have reported hearing laughter or soft calls for attention, particularly in areas near the kitchen or service entrances. These auditory experiences are fleeting, often vanishing as soon as one focuses on their source, leaving listeners with the unnerving impression that the restaurant itself is alive with memory and energy. The history of the building provides some insight into why these phenomena occur. The Phantom Fork has existed for decades, and the space has seen its share of tragedies and intense moments. From accidents involving staff to sudden deaths of patrons, the restaurant has accumulated energy from events charged with emotion. Paranormal investigators who have visited report cold spots, EMF spikes, and electronic interference in areas where sightings are most common. Some have even captured faint images on video or photographs that suggest human-like figures moving independently of any living person. Despite the unsettling activity, the Phantom Fork remains a popular destination. Many diners are drawn not only by the food, but by the allure of the paranormal. Some visit specifically in hopes of witnessing an apparition or experiencing one of the mysterious cold drafts firsthand. Staff who work the late-night shifts have come to accept the hauntings as part of the restaurant's character, moving carefully through the space and remaining aware of the invisible presence that seems to inhabit every corner. Patrons leave with stories of their encounters, recounting shadows, whispers, and inexplicable movements with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. The looping behavior of the spirits is another key feature. Many reports suggest that the apparitions repeat actions from their past, seemingly stuck in cycles of routine or last moments. Chefs might be seen endlessly stirring pots, adjusting utensils, or pacing between workstations as if preparing for service that never ends. Patrons' ghosts may appear seated at tables, performing gestures associated with eating or conversation, only to fade away when observed closely. This repetitive, almost hypnotic behavior gives the phantom fork a sense of being caught between time and space, a place where the past refuses to fully let go. Cold drafts, shadowy figures, moving objects, and whispering voices combine to create a sensory environment that is both fascinating and unnerving. Every visit to the Phantom Fork is an exercise in heightened awareness, where diners may find themselves questioning the ordinary and the extraordinary. The restaurant's spectral residents are not malevolent in the conventional sense, but their presence is insistent, persistent, and undeniable. For those who step inside, the Phantom Fork offers an experience that goes beyond a meal. It is a space where the past continues to intersect with the present, where memories of those who lived, worked, and dined there linger as tangible echoes. The apparitions, from chefs tirelessly working to diners frozen in moments of conversation, create a haunting tableau that is as compelling as it is eerie. Objects move on their own, whispers thread through the air, and cold drafts brush past, reminding all who enter that the restaurant is not empty, but filled with the lingering essence of lives once lived within its walls. The Wailing Waiter in San Francisco is a dining establishment unlike any other, infamous not just for its food, but for the restless spirits said to haunt its halls. Located in a historic district, this restaurant draws curious patrons eager to experience both the culinary and the paranormal. Guests and staff alike report hearing soft cries echoing through empty rooms, silverware clattering without explanation, and chairs sliding across floors as though guided by invisible hands. The most chilling reports involve the apparition of a waiter in an old-fashioned uniform, moving with deliberate care as if serving invisible diners who have long since passed. Visitors to the Wailing Waiter often describe an initial sense of unease, a feeling that the restaurant is not entirely empty even when the tables appear vacant. Many first notice cold drafts that seem to have no source, brushing past them as they move through the dining area. The air feels charged, heavy with an unseen presence that follows quietly, yet insistently. Some diners report the sensation of being observed, turning to see nothing, only to feel the temperature drop in the corner of the room where the spirit is said to linger. The signature phenomenon of the Wailing Waiter is auditory. Patrons frequently hear soft sobbing or whispered cries that cannot be traced to any living person. The sounds are subtle but persistent, sometimes seeming to echo from the kitchen, other times from the farthest corners of the dining room. Guests have recounted hearing the unmistakable clatter of plates, forks, and knives, moving as if set down by unseen hands. In some cases, chairs slide slowly across the floor, either in preparation for an unseen guest, or as if the waiter himself is arranging the tables for service that exists only in the spirit world. Perhaps the most vivid encounters involve sightings of the ghostly waiter, described as wearing a traditional uniform from decades past, to crisp vest, starched shirt, and bow tie. This figure moves through the dining room with precision, sometimes pausing to set an invisible tray or adjust an unseen glass. Patrons who have witnessed the apparition report that the waiter's expression is solemn, almost mournful, and that he seems entirely unaware of their presence. When approached, he vanishes, leaving only the lingering sense of his presence and the faint echo of his footsteps. The restaurant's long history offers clues to why the Wailing Waiter has remained bound to the space. Built over a century ago, the building has seen its share of personal tragedies and intense moments. Employees and owners from the early 1900s lived and worked within its walls, and some died suddenly while on duty. Paranormal investigators suggest that the spirits are replaying familiar routines, bound to the restaurant by emotional energy that has accumulated over decades. Cold spots, unexplained noises, and spectral sightings all align with areas where the waiter would have performed his duties in life, lending credibility to the idea that he remains tethered to the space by lingering attachment to his work. Visitors to the Wailing Waiter often experience a combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena. The cold drafts, clattering silverware, and shifting furniture are accompanied by an eerie sense of continuity. as if the space itself remembers the movements and interactions of those long gone. Guests recount seeing shadows flitting along the walls, reflections of empty chairs appearing in mirrors, and lights flickering in corners where no electrical issues exist. Some diners feel a gentle brush against their arms or hear soft footsteps behind them, only to turn and find the room empty. The repetition of the waiter's actions is another haunting feature. Many reports describe him performing the same tasks over and over, setting an invisible table, arranging non-existent cutlery, or pacing the aisles between tables. The apparitions of diners, too, are occasionally observed, seated at tables, eating, conversing, or gesturing, only to vanish when looked at directly. This cyclical behavior gives the wailing waiter a sense of being caught in a moment frozen in time, replaying the daily rituals of a bygone era for all who enter the restaurant. Staff members who work the late shifts have come to accept the supernatural activity as part of the wailing waiter's identity. Chefs report hearing the faint echo of orders being called. Servers describe chairs moving in preparation for guests who will never arrive. And managers recount strange noises in otherwise empty areas. Patrons often leave with vivid stories of their encounters, describing ghostly figures, soft sobbing, and fleeting glimpses of the uniformed waiter. Some return repeatedly, drawn not just by the food, but by the opportunity to witness the haunting firsthand. The presence of the wailing waiter adds an unexpected layer of atmosphere to the restaurant. Every meal comes with a sense of history, memory, and the uncanny, as if the spirits of the past continue to observe, care for, and interact with the living. The clattering silverware, shifting chairs, and soft cries are reminders that the restaurant is not only a place of dining but also a space where the past lingers in tangible ways. Patrons leave with the impression that they have glimpsed a world layered atop their own, a realm where human activity is mirrored by the echoes of those who have long since passed. In the wailing waiter, cold drafts brush past diners, shadows flit across walls, and ghostly figures move with solemn purpose. The clatter of plates, the sliding of chairs, and the mournful cries echo through the rooms, leaving no doubt that the restaurant is alive with memories. The waiter himself, dressed in the uniform of a long-past era, performs his duties endlessly, serving meals that exist only in the spectral dimension. Guests, staff, and paranormal enthusiasts all bear witness to the peculiar blend of history, tragedy, and haunting energy, making the wailing waiter a place where the ordinary act of dining intersects with the extraordinary presence of restless spirits. The Echoing Hall in Sacramento is a dining establishment steeped in history and mystery, a place where the ordinary act of eating is accompanied by the extraordinary presence of lingering spirits. Patrons and staff alike have long reported strange occurrences, from faint echoes of conversations to cold spots that seem to appear at random near tables. Shadows flit along the walls, moving independently of the lighting, and some diners claim to have glimpsed figures performing repetitive actions, as if trapped in moments from lives long past. Visitors to the Echoing Hall often first notice a subtle unease, a feeling that the room carries memories beyond the present. The air is frequently cooler than it should be, and the chill is most pronounced near certain tables where many have reported the most intense paranormal activity. Chairs may slide slightly as if nudged by unseen hands, and cutlery occasionally clatters without explanation, creating the sense that invisible diners are settling in to enjoy a meal that only exists in the spiritual realm. One of the most reported phenomena involves auditory echoes. Guests have heard fragments of conversations, laughter, and arguments that seem displaced in time. These echoes are not random. Some claim the voices correspond to events that occurred decades earlier. Patrons describe the sensation of listening to a conversation that is both present and past, overlapping with their own dining experience. The echoes often emerge near the central hall or around specific tables, adding an eerie rhythm to the background sounds of the restaurant. In addition to auditory phenomena, shadowy figures are commonly observed. They move along the walls or linger in the corners, vanishing whenever approached directly. Some figures appear seated at empty tables, performing actions like raising a glass, cutting food, or gesturing to companions who are long gone. Witnesses report that the shadows seem unaware of the living, caught in a cycle of repetition, reenacting routines from their lives before they passed. The effect is a chilling glimpse into the past, as though the echoing hall exists simultaneously across time, bridging the world of the living and the dead. Staff who work late shifts often report the most vivid experiences. Servers have recounted seeing chairs move on their own, as if an invisible diner is being seated. Kitchen staff occasionally hear footsteps echoing along corridors when no one else is present, and the clatter of dishes can occur without any apparent cause. Many employees have come to accept the supernatural as part of daily life in the echoing hall, describing it as a delicate balance between the ordinary operations of the restaurant and the persistent presence of spirits that refuse to leave. Patrons have shared countless stories of encounters that range from unsettling to outright frightening. Some report sudden chills when sitting at particular tables, followed by faint whispers that seem to respond to their own murmurs. Others have seen shadows cross the dining area or vanish into walls. A few have described seeing ghostly figures, mirroring the actions of waitstaff, carrying plates or arranging cutlery in a manner that suggests careful attention to detail, as if the spirits are attempting to maintain the rituals of life they once knew. The history of the echoing hall offers context for these persistent hauntings. Established over a century ago, the building has been witness to countless meals, celebrations, and personal dramas. Over the decades, deaths and accidents occurred, both inside and near the restaurant, leaving behind the residual energy of lives interrupted. Paranormal investigators suggest that this energy, combined with the emotional significance of the space, may explain why spirits continue to manifest, repeating familiar actions and vocalizing fragments of past conversations. Many visitors describe a feeling of connection, an unspoken awareness that they are not alone. Even those who enter skeptically cannot deny the strange interactions that occur. Tables may feel colder, chairs may shift, and faint voices may be heard even above the ambient noise of the restaurant. For some, the experience is thrilling, a glimpse into a living history that defies rational explanation. For others, the presence of the echoes and shadows is deeply unsettling, a reminder that time here behaves differently, and that the past refuses to remain buried. The repetitive actions of the spirits are a defining feature of the echoing hall. Shadows are often seen carrying out tasks from decades earlier. A waiter setting an invisible table, a patron raising a long-forgotten glass, or a child adjusting an imaginary chair. These actions are precise and deliberate, giving the impression that the spirits are bound by routine, unable to step outside the loops of their former lives. Observers frequently remark on the strange sense of continuity, as if the restaurant itself is replaying fragments of history for those willing to notice. Visitors also report visual anomalies. Lights flicker without cause, creating sudden changes in illumination that highlight shadows and figures in unexpected places. Mirrors reflect not only the present, but hints of past patrons, appearing and disappearing with an almost playful unpredictability. Some have captured photographs revealing faint outlines of figures or distorted shadows, though many more experiences are ephemeral, leaving no physical trace other than the memory of being watched or followed by invisible presences. The echoing hall is more than a restaurant. It is a space where the past and present coexist. Every chair, table, and corridor carries the imprint of lives once lived, and the spirits within replay their routines with unyielding persistence. Patrons leave with stories of whispers, cold spots, and ghostly figures that linger in their minds long after the meal is finished. For those who visit, the restaurant offers an unusual combination of dining and paranormal experience, a reminder that history is never truly gone and that memory can manifest in the most unexpected ways. The Forgotten Plate in Los Angeles is a restaurant with a reputation that extends far beyond its menu. Once the site of numerous disputes, accidents, and unexplained tragedies, the building now harbors an air of unease that patrons and staff cannot ignore. Guests often enter expecting a quiet meal, only to encounter sensations and phenomena that defy explanation. The atmosphere is charged with stories of past conflicts and lingering spirits, giving the restaurant an eerie reputation throughout the city. From the moment diners step inside, they often report a subtle feeling of being watched. Cold drafts appear suddenly, sweeping across tables even when doors and windows are closed. Lights flicker intermittently, casting shadows that seem to move independently of the physical environment. Chairs scrape lightly along the floor, as if nudged by unseen hands, and utensils occasionally shift or clatter without human interference. The combination of these occurrences creates a sense that the restaurant itself is alive with the echoes of the past, replaying events that remain unresolved. One of the most striking aspects of the Forgotten Plate is the presence of ghostly apparitions. Patrons have described seeing figures standing in corners or moving through the dining area, only to vanish when approached. Some apparitions appear to be dressed in old-fashioned attire, suggesting that they are remnants of diners or staff from decades earlier. Others take on a more shadowy, indistinct form, appearing as fleeting silhouettes that vanish when looked at directly. Witnesses often feel a chill when these figures pass, and many describe an immediate instinct to leave the area, overcome by a sense of unease or foreboding. Whispers are another common phenomenon reported by guests. These murmurs are often fragmented, disjointed, and impossible to trace to a source. Some diners hear their names called softly, while others catch snatches of conversations that seem eerily familiar, yet displaced in time. The whispers are not constant, but when they occur, they create an overwhelming sense that the restaurant is occupied by invisible patrons reliving moments of their lives. Guests have reported feeling pressure on their shoulders, as though someone unseen is leaning close, adding to the sensation that the boundary between the living and the spectral is remarkably thin in this space. Perhaps the most unsettling experiences involve objects moving seemingly of their own accord. Plates, glasses, and silverware have been reported sliding across tables or falling to the floor without warning. Patrons have recounted seeing napkins float in midair, or small items thrown several feet away, eliciting sudden screams and hurried departures. These poltergeist-like activities often coincide with moments of heightened tension within the restaurant, such as disputes or loud arguments, as if the environment itself reacts to the emotions of the living, amplifying residual energies from the past. Staff members have their own collection of strange encounters. Servers report chairs shifting as if an invisible diner is being seated, and kitchen staff hear the clanging of pots and pans when no one else is present. Late-night cleanups are particularly rife with unusual events, doors opening and closing, lights flickering in patterns, and even the faint sounds of footsteps echoing along empty corridors. Some employees claim to have seen full-bodied apparitions in the kitchen or dining area, performing tasks like setting tables, serving food, or pacing nervously as if caught in loops of their former lives. The history of the Forgotten Plate sheds light on its persistent hauntings. Established in the early 20th century, the restaurant quickly became a gathering place for heated disputes and frequent altercations. Accidents, sometimes fatal, occurred in both the kitchen and dining area, leaving behind physical and emotional scars. Paranormal investigators suggest that the combination of high emotional energy and traumatic events has left residual spiritual imprints. These imprints appear to interact with the living in ways that are both subtle and dramatic, explaining the repeated sightings, whispers, and sudden movements reported by guests and staff alike. Visitors often describe a profound mixture of fascination and fear. Many enter skeptically, expecting nothing more than the ambience of a historic restaurant, only to be confronted with cold drafts, flickering lights, and shadows that refuse to obey the normal rules of physics. Some report feeling followed from table to table, sensing unseen presences lingering just out of sight. Others have captured photographs that reveal faint outlines or distortions, though many of the most intense experiences leave no evidence, existing solely in the memory of those who witnessed them. Despite or perhaps because of its reputation, the Forgotten Plate continues to draw guests intrigued by its haunted history. Patrons, seeking a culinary experience, often find themselves participating in a paranormal encounter, Some embrace the thrill, sharing stories of whispers, fleeting figures, and objects moving without explanation. Others leave quickly, unnerved by the inexplicable events that seem to underscore the restaurant's violent and tragic past. In every case, the haunting is inescapable, a reminder that the spirits of the past remain ever present, observing, interacting, and replaying their final moments. Even during ordinary dining hours, the atmosphere of the forgotten plate carries an undercurrent of otherworldliness. Every table seems to hold the weight of memories. Every corridor echoes faint footsteps, and every flicker of light hints at a presence just beyond perception. Guests have reported that certain areas are particularly active, with shadows darting in peripheral vision and objects moving unexpectedly. Some have claimed to feel a hand lightly touch their shoulder or a chill pass over them when seated near the busiest sections of paranormal activity. The combination of history, tragedy, and repeated paranormal events has made the Forgotten Plate a focal point for those fascinated by ghostly phenomena. Its walls hold the energy of disputes and accidents, and the spirits within seem determined to remain part of the ongoing narrative. Every whisper, shadow, and unexplained movement is a reminder that the restaurant is far more than a place to eat. It's a living archive of unresolved events and lingering presences. For those who enter, the experience is unforgettable, a blend of culinary tradition and encounters with the restless spirits who refuse to fade into obscurity. The Last Supper in San Diego is a restaurant steeped in mystery and haunted lore. Known for its rich culinary history, it also carries a reputation that attracts those drawn to the paranormal. From the moment guests step inside, many report an unsettling sensation, as if the building itself is alive with the echoes of those who came before. Shadows seem to linger longer than they should, and a subtle chill permeates the air, even in the warmest rooms. Patrons often speak of an overwhelming feeling of being observed, a presence that hovers just beyond their line of sight, watching silently as they move through the space. Visitors frequently describe ghostly apparitions seated at tables, as if frozen in mid. These spectral diners appear in various states, some raising a fork, frozen midair, others leaning in to whisper secrets to companions who are no longer there. The figures often vanish when approached, leaving only the faint smell of old meals and a lingering impression that they were ever present. Mirrors in the dining room add another layer of eerie interaction. Shadows and shapes flicker across reflective surfaces, sometimes revealing figures seated in booths or moving along the aisles. Guests have reported seeing entire tables set for invisible patrons, complete with cutlery and glassware that gleams with no source of light. The atmosphere is thickened by unexplained sounds. Whispered conversations drift across the dining room, seemingly without origin, rising and falling with no identifiable speakers. Laughter echoes softly in corners where no one sits, adding a chilling undertone to what might otherwise be ordinary dining chatter. Some visitors feel unseen, hands brush against their arms or shoulders, a touch that is both fleeting and unnerving. The presence is never overtly threatening, but it leaves a lasting impression, the sense that the spirits are watching and waiting for something long past, tied to the restaurant by memories of events they cannot leave behind. The kitchen of the Last Supper is another hotspot for activity. Patrons and staff alike report hearing the clang of pots and pans, the hiss of stovetops igniting, and the rhythmic chopping of knives all when the kitchen is empty. Servers have told stories of utensils moving along counters, seemingly in the hands of invisible chefs. Some claim that these phenomena are the remnants of a tragic accident decades ago, when a fire broke out during a busy service, leading to injuries and deaths among the kitchen staff. Paranormal investigators suggest that the intensity of the tragedy left residual energy that now manifests as the repeated actions of the spirits trapped within the building. The dining area itself presents moments of profound unease. Chairs slide across the floor as if occupied by unseen patrons, and tables sometimes appear set for meals that will never be eaten. Patrons have reported feeling a sudden cold enveloping their seating area, often accompanied by the faint scent of smoke or cooked food. Occasionally, a gust of air will sweep through a corridor or hallway, carrying with it a sense of presence and movement that cannot be explained by natural causes. Guests have described glimpsing fleeting figures at the edges of their vision, only to turn and find the space empty. Mirrors and reflective surfaces are particularly active in this restaurant. Some diners have claimed to see groups of past patrons reflected behind them, standing at tables or moving along the aisles. These figures often fade when directly looked at, yet their impressions linger, leaving an unsettling awareness that the past is never truly gone in this space. The mirrors act as portals, allowing glimpses into moments that repeat endlessly, as though time itself has become entangled with the lingering spirits of the Last Supper. Staff members have adapted to the presence over the years. Though many still speak in hushed tones about what they have witnessed, servers have recounted trays moving along counters without contact, chairs being pulled out for unseen diners, and the subtle shifting of table settings during closed hours. Cleaning staff sometimes report hearing whispered instructions or soft footsteps that echo through empty rooms. While some employees have grown accustomed to these phenomena, new staff members often experience a deep sense of unease, feeling watched or brushed by invisible presences. Guests are drawn to the Last Supper not only for its food, but also for its haunted reputation. Skeptics often enter expecting nothing unusual, only to experience cold drafts, flickering lights, and glimpses of figures that defy explanation. Many leave with stories of whispers, laughter, and fleeting shadows, their experiences shaping the restaurant's enduring mystique. For those who enter seeking paranormal encounters, the environment does not disappoint. Every table, corridor, and reflective surface may hold a reminder that the spirits are near, observing the living while replaying fragments of their own lives. Even during peak dining hours, the spectral presence is noticeable. Guests seated in the corners of the room sometimes feel the brush of unseen hands, the cold touch of a ghostly presence, or the weight of being watched. Waiters report that orders may be set down at empty tables, silverware aligned as if served to someone unseen. Patrons recount hearing faint laughter and whispers as they eat, their origins impossible to pinpoint, blending with the sounds of conversation and clatter of dishes in a way that feels both ordinary and otherworldly. The Last Supper has become more than just a restaurant. It is a living archive of the past, where tragedy and memory intertwine. The spirits that linger here appear bound by the events of decades ago, trapped in the moments that defined their final experiences. Every whisper, every shadow, every flicker of light serves as a reminder of lives once lived and meals once shared. Guests and staff alike leave with the impression that the restaurant exists not merely as a space for dining, but as a threshold between the living and the lingering dead. And there you have it, 25 haunted restaurants in California, where shadows move along walls, whispers echo through empty rooms, and spirits linger long after the lights go out. These restaurants remind us that every meal has a story, and some stories never end, not even with death. If this journey into California's haunted eateries sent shivers down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another ghostly tale. Until next time, tread carefully through kitchens and dining halls, because some diners never truly leave.